Hello, good evening. Welcome to the third class of salaries. So this page is on the first, but don't worry about that. We will reach the third class. I have opened the whole deck so that we can also quickly revise what we have done so far. This is a very new subject to you and a very new head of income also. And also some people are joining. So by the time they join, I will just quickly take you through the slides so that we are warmed up and then we start today's lecture. Okay. But we are not going to spend too much time on revision of the past because then we will not be able to proceed. Okay. I am good. Hope you all are well. Chalo. Okay. So this slide was about basics. Here we spoke about that income under the head salaries is chargeable on due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. And once it is taxed in 1 year, it will not be taxed again in the second year when the second event happens. Okay, we did that. There is a meaning of salary. Salary has been defined. There are something called perquisites. Then there is profits in lieu of salary. What they are, we will do in this class. And some deductions are allowed against gross salary so that we can derive the net salary or taxable salary. We had briefly discussed in the last class that it is standard deduction, entertainment allowance, and professional tax, and that it is allowed to some employees in some regimes and not allowed to other employees in other regimes. We will discuss a little more in detail today so that you are updated and you understand it perfectly, and we'll do one example so you will remember. But also remember that this is something that you have to automatically apply in the sums. They will not prompt you to give standard deduction. You have to keep this in your mind. So always remember that when you are solving the sum salaries, everything else you will be given in the sum, you have to pick, evaluate, and then apply. But this standard deduction is something they will not give you in the sum. You need to still apply your mind that, okay, there is something I need to do. Okay, so just be very careful about this. We did that there has to be employer-employee relationship for the purpose of charging something under the head salary. Because if you receive something from somebody, whether or not it is salary in the first place is based on whether or not there is an employer-employee or master service relationship, control relationship between the employer and employee. I hope the audio is clear. Yes? Okay. All right. Somebody was saying something special. Okay. Then we move to accrual. So normally, when we say salary is chargeable on due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier, so receipt is clear. Normally, if you get it in your bank account, it is received. Normally, there is no confusion about that. But accrual is something which you may have to judge. Now, in case of salary, it is simple because the salaried person is an individual service provider whose physical presence will show you where the service is performed. So place of performance of salary service is very simple because it is dependent on the place of location of the employee. Okay. So normally salary accrues where employee is working and providing service. But in certain cases, there were deeming rules that salary, if it is paid by the government to Indian citizen for services provided outside India, normally the service is outside India. It should not have accrued in India. But this will be deemed to accrue or arise in India, except any allowances and perquisites paid to such employee. Similarly, there was something about foreign nationals. We did a sum on this also. And even in your quiz, in the last class, your ma'am had spoken about this, right? Then we did the basis of charge. We already did. We move to the next slide. We did meaning of salary, that there are so many limbs. It means monetary, it means non-monetary perquisites. There is wages, gratuity, fees. So there's some terminal benefits also, fees, commission. We said that if dearness allowance forms part of calculation of retirement benefits, then it is popularly called DA forming part in the sums, and it has a special recognition. And commission, if it is based as a fixed percentage of turnover, then also it has a special role to play in calculation of retirement benefits. We also did in the last class that how they had a specific role to play. We did allowances, that they are monetary payments, okay, to meet expenditure of employee. That expenditure can be personal, official. That allowances taxability may be dependent on the amount spent, may not be dependent on the amount spent. There were various categories of allowances which we did in the first class. I am not talking much about that in detail, not talking much about the exemptions, especially HRA. HRA is an important one. This was the criteria given that HRA received is exempt based on least of the following. So in all these kind of sums, you will first put the amount received in the outer column, that this is the amount received on account of HRA, less exemption, least of the following. Then you calculate each of the limbs in the inner column, whether it is amount received, whether it is rent paid minus 10% of salary, and whether it is 50 or 40% of salary for the period, as the case may be, depending on whether the employee is in a metro city or not. Okay, and then you, in the outer column, you take the least of the following, you reduce it from the gross amount received, and you will get the net taxable allowance. Okay, so we did illustrations also on HRA, and then we did different other types of allowances. We spoke about children education allowance and hostel allowance, that they are exempt up to a certain limit, 100 per month per child up to 2 children, 300 per month per child up to 2 children. Here, the amount of expenditure actually spent does not matter. What matters is the amount of allowance received subject to this maximum exemption limit. Okay, beyond this, it will be taxable. There also they said in certain regime, it is exempt, but in certain regime, it is still taxable. So there were differences in the treatments. I'm not generalizing anything because there are different things about different things. So you have to read in detail, go back to see where it is what. Okay, and we did a solution on children education allowance. Then we did some allowances which are fully exempt. Okay, some which are fully exempt under optional regime, some which are fully exempt under both regimes. Okay, about that allowances paid to Indian citizen by government of India out for services rendered outside India. Then we did some homework. We solved the home solutions in the last class, right? And we found that most of us are clear about the residential status. We had to factor residential status. We had to factor deemed accrual provisions, and then accordingly we solved the sums. Then in the last class, we discussed some terminal benefits. GPLRV, gratuity, pension, leave encashment, retrenchment compensation, VRS, 1010, 1010A, 1010AA, 1010B, 1010C. We did all of that. Okay. And we solved sums on each of them. We did what pension is, what is commuted pension. That is, if you want to get one lump sum part, the whole pension is determined for you. You want to receive a part of it in lump sum today based on the present value of future annuity. That is commuted pension. And the other part you want to receive, yearly after your retirement, like how it is normally. That is uncommuted pension. And we did that commuted pension is fully taxable. But uncommuted pension, for that, there is, different kind of thing. So actually, uncommuted pension is fully taxable, but commuted pension, there is exemption for government employees. It is fully exempt. For other employees, we had to see whether the person is also receiving gratuity or not receiving gratuity. And accordingly, we calculated the exemption limit of 1/3 or 1/2 as the case may be. And we did some sums on that. Okay. And we saw that these terminal benefits, the exemption is available under both regimes. So we don't have to be confused about that. Okay. Then we did, after solving sums on pension, then we did gratuity. And we found that there is an overall taxation cap of 20 lakhs. And even if you have received gratuity from more than one employer over your entire career because you changed employment, still the total limit of 20 lakhs will be available. Every next time you try to claim this, they will only consider the unused amount out of 20 lakhs. This exemption is also available under both regimes. We did that if gratuity is received during the course of service, it is fully taxable. There is no special provision for something which you are receiving even before retirement. Okay. The benefit is for something you are receiving after retirement or death, because they are cognizant of the fact that your regular source of income has stopped. And at that time, they cannot penalize you with too much of taxes. Okay. So at that time, if it is for government employee, it is fully exempt. If it is for other employees, then you check whether the employee is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act or not. Accordingly, you calculate the exemption limit. The meaning of salary was different for different purposes. We did that if the person is falling under Payment of Gratuity Act, then they have perhaps tried to align the definition with that act. So they said basic plus DA. But everywhere else, normally we were seeing that salary has been defined as basic plus DA forming part plus commission based on fixed percentage of turnover. Then we did some sums on gratuity, and then we went on to leave encashment. Leave encashment also we found that there is an overall capping, like it was 20 lakhs in gratuity, it is 25 lakhs in leave encashment. This is also available under both regimes. This also you can get more than once, but the next time you get it, you need to use the unused limit of out of 25 lakhs. Okay. There was a salary meaning here also, which is the same, basic plus DA forming part plus commission as fixed percentage of turnover. Here also we did that if it is received during the course of services, it is fully taxable. But if you receive it on superannuation or retirement, then government employee receives it completely exempt. But any other employee receives, then least of the following is exempt, out of which one has to be the amount received. Okay. The other has to be 25 lakhs because it is notified limit, reduced by any amount that you have already you may have claimed. Okay. Then there were two other limits, about 10 months salary and cash equivalent of the leave entitlement. And we calculated the unused leave, and then we found out how to do that. Okay. So we did sums on that. So you understood also that, okay, how it is done. Then we did retrenchment compensation. We said that, okay, we need to do this, but it is not very popular because it is given very rarely. It is paid under Industrial Disputes Act and because of modification in terms of employment. That means you're being, premature, or you've not contemplated that you may have to leave in this way, but you had to be laid off. And this is a laying off compensation. So nobody planned for it, right? So it is therefore not very popular. But we found out that it can happen to laborers also, and therefore they have used the word wages, and they have defined that if it is a daily paid worker, if it is a weekly paid worker, if it is a monthly paid worker, how should the wages be considered? Okay. And we found that there is a formula of how it can be exempt. There is no special relief over here for government employees, like you can see. Okay. Then we did VRS. VRS exemption is available under both regimes again. And this has to be backed by a scheme because it has to show that company is going through some financial crisis, and therefore some employees have to seek a voluntary retirement even before their retirement age. Okay. So, and then we did over here that if you are already taking benefit under Section 89, which we will cover later, then you will not get a relief again over here. So whenever you get a sum on this, they will mention whether the person has already taken a relief under Section 89 or will not. Okay, and you do this only if the person is not taking benefit under any other section. I cannot explain too much in Hindi because some of our students don't understand Hindi. If there is any specific provision you want me to repeat in Hindi, I can do that. Okay. Okay. Then we found that the exemption is available to almost all kinds of employees. It can be government, non-government, PSU, any other company, LA, cooperative society, IIT, IIMs, etc. So more or less, a lot of undertakings are eligible. And salary definition is again basic plus DA forming part plus commission based on fixed percentage of turnover. And there were a few limits given, like 5 lakhs was the upper cap. This is once in a lifetime opportunity. Huh? So it is not a case that what if you get the next time, then can you use the unused limit out of 5 lakhs? This particular exemption is once in a lifetime. You can get only from one employer in the entire life of the SSC. Okay. I mean, you may get VRS more than once, but the exemption you will get only once. Okay. So then least of these is exempt. So, ma'am, do we have to remember so much? So I said that yes, you have to remember these limits. Certain sections are more important. I made you tick them. That yes, these kind of things you need to remember. HRA you need to remember. This gratuity, pension, leave encashment, these are very important. Retrenchment and VRS are normally not so popular in the industry, and therefore it is not so popular in the exams. But again, if it comes, then you can do it only if you know it. Otherwise, there is no way to guess. Okay. Then we did sums on VRS. And then in the last class, we were just about to do deductions under Section 16 when we could not have enough time and we could not finish it. Okay. So before we proceed to the deductions, let us do the homework solution. That the homework question that you got for the last class. Yes. So how many of you had done the homework solution on terminal benefits? Homework number 3, question number 3. How many of you have done this question at home? How many of you have tried solving it? This was a very good sum of homework because it had HRA, gratuity, leave encashment, pension. You may not be knowing the treatment of point number 6, which is gift. I have not yet taught you. Okay. But that's okay. Even if you don't know last point, you must have been able to solve 1 to 5, right? So it was a very good, comprehensive kind of homework last time. How many of you have solved it? Please give it to me in the chat box. Full-fledged question is homework 3. Yes, tried. Okay. Somebody asked me retrenchment compensation may DA forms part or not. So actually now retrenchment compensation may the word used is not salary, it is wages. Salary has been defined in a lot of places as DA forming part and all that. Wages has been specifically defined in the law. कि भाई daily wage worker है तो क्या, monthly then what, weekly then what. So there it's not a question of the DA forming part or not. Everything that is received has been defined under wages, even non-cash. Okay. Acha, ठीक है. So some people have tried, that's very good. You may or may not have been able to completely do it, but if you don't try, you will never know whether you can do it. So let's start to solve together. Tell me what is the first step. Well, let's read. This is Mr. Raja under default regime. And default regime means he's under the 115 BAC. 115 BAC means he doesn't get all types of benefits. We have to be very, very particular. Now we know that gratuity, leave encashment, pension, he will get even under this regime. So we'll have to calculate. But what about HRA? Will he get any benefit of HRA under default regime? Will he get any benefit on HRA under default regime? No. Okay. HRA fully taxable, ma'am. Okay. So please, those of you who have not yet tried, some of you have mentioned we have not tried. Please read this sum carefully. Please. 2 minutes, let's all read this sum carefully. Because I will then proceed to solve the sum and I'll ask you some facts which you will have to tell me without having to look too much into the sum. I am just trying to test how properly, carefully you read the sum. Every detail is important, okay? Every detail is important. Please see. So the first of all, you start plotting. The person has retired at the age of 60 after putting in 25 years, 9 months from private company at Delhi. Okay, this point in itself does not invite any treatment. Second point, he was paid a salary of 25,000 per month and HRA. So please plot basic 25,000 per month. Please calculate till December, because after that he will not be getting, na? He must have got for April to December only. Please calculate till December. So you have calculated, also calculate HRA, basic and HRA, please plot them in the outer column as to what is received. And also give a note that HRA is completely taxable because the person is opted for default regime. It is not available and there is no exemption available under default regime. Next, you plot gratuity. For gratuity, it is suggested you calculate the exemption in a note because you cannot cloud the main solution too much. So in the main, solution, you write gratuity amount received. You write 3.5 lakh in the outer column, okay, and then you write less exemption. For that, refer note 1. So you do all your calculation in the note, so that even if you have, you make an error, you have to change it. You don't have to completely change the main calculation. You can do it in the note itself, and the main table doesn't look bad. Okay, so I hope you all have done that. Then when you were calculating the gratuity received, I'm now removing the question because otherwise I will not be able to solve. So I'm just putting over here that in the gratuity received, you would have 3.5 lakh as received. And then when you are calculating the exemption, it will be least of the following. Amount received would again be 3.5 lakh. So that would be one of it. And the second would be 15 days for every completed year of service. Now, please see whether he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. Yes, he is covered. So if he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act, then the number of days will be taken as 26. And then we multiplied by the last drawn salary, which we have seen as 25,000. Is DA forming part over here? Under the Payment of Gratuity Act, is DA forming part relevant? No. Okay. Is there at all a DA in the sum? Is there at all a DA in the sum? No. So anyway, it is not relevant. But if there was a DA, you had to take the full thing, huh? Because you are under a situation where the person is falling under Payment of Gratuity Act. Okay. DA forming part is a term coined by income tax. When they were trying to align with the Payment of Gratuity Act, they wanted to borrow definition from there. Now, in that act, they don't give special recognition to DA forming part, commission based on fixed percentage of turnover. Those things they don't understand. Okay, so therefore, here the salary definition will be, when they take it from Payment of Gratuity Act, the definition will be salary plus basic plus DA. Okay. All right, so we've got this also. Then into number of completed years of service. Now 25 years, 9 months. Will it be rounded off to 26 or will it be rounded off to 25? Remember, he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. So will you ignore the fraction or will you upward round off if the number is more than 6? What will you do? You will upward round off if the number is more than 6. Okay, so you have taken 26. What is the answer? I hope all of you have got this as 3,75,000. Then we go get the next limit, the third limit, which is the statutory limit of 20 lakhs. Okay, now if we are to calculate the least of the following, 3.5 lakhs, 3,75,000 and 20 lakhs, then which is the least of them? The least amount is 3.5. The least amount is 3.5. 3.5 exemption. So the full amount of gratuity received is actually exempt in this case. If you go, this was a note, this was note 1, suppose. If you go back to your main solution from the note, then the full amount would be over there, completely exempt. Okay, somebody saying please solve systematically. If I start to solve line by line, one by one in front of you, one at least half of the students will automatically start copying the solution. Okay, my whole idea of never writing the complete sentences is that you form the sentence, you start it, and you only refer to my work when you want to verify what you have done is correct or not. I know I have been teaching students. I know what most of you tend to do. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's a tendency. You apply your mind, you write the sentence, and last you will see, compare with my solution. Okay. All right. So I hope gratuity is clear. Now we come to pension, leave encashment. Should we now deal with leave encashment? Point number 4. Chalo, okay, let's do. Or let's do uncommuted pension first, because that's a very small one. Let's do pension first. Huh? Okay, so we are doing pension. He's receiving 5,000 as pension, and on 1st February commuted 60% of it. Commuted 60% of it. So tell me first that what happens to uncommuted pension? What happens to uncommuted pension? UP is not Uttar Pradesh, it is uncommuted pension. What happens to uncommuted pension? No revert, no comment, no comment. Fully taxed, very good. So uncommuted pension is fully taxed. So how much is one uncommuted pension? It is 5,000 for 1 month, because he retired on 31st December. So for January he received 5,000. Then what happened on 1st of February? He said, I don't want full amount. I mean, I don't want 5,000 per month. I want a part of it commuted and the other part of it uncommuted. That means he said 40% of it will be uncommuted. How many more months left in this year? 2 months, February and March. So 5,000 into 40% into 2 is actually the amount of uncommuted pension for February and March, right? So the total uncommuted pension would be 9,000. And this will be fully taxable. Okay. Okay. Thereafter, let's go to the second part, which is uncommuted pension. Okay, let's do the uncommuted pension. Commuted pension. For commuted pension, we have seen that it is 60% of his commuted pension received. First, we write in the outer column. That's going to be 60% of 5,000 into. No, how much has he received as commuted pension? 3 lakhs. He has received 3 lakhs as commuted pension. So 3 lakhs is the amount received in the outer column. And then we are calculating in the inner column the amount of commuted pension exempted. Is it available under default regime? Do you get benefit of commuted pension exemption in default regime? Somebody saying no. Then why are we calculating? If you don't get any exemption, just write. Why are we calculating? Remember, terminal benefits exemption you get under both regimes. Okay. So yes, you get. All right. Commuted pension. So for this, we first in the outer column written amount received. Now exemption would be because this payment person is receiving gratuity under Payment of Gratuity Act. So the exemption amount is 1/3. Lawmakers think that if he is already getting gratuity, then why give more exemption on pension? Why give 1/2? Let's give only 1/3. Why give 50%? Let's only give 33%. So they have given only 1/3 exemption to how much? The commuted part divided by the commuted percentage. So if 3 lakh has been received on account of commutation of 60%, then you put it like this. Okay. And then you multiply by 100. So if you've written 60%, either you write divided by 60 into 100 or you write divided by 0.6. Just write one of that. Okay. Don't get confused. So if you do this, what is the amount? Can somebody work it out? Basically 1 lakh by 0.6. What is the amount? Very good. So some people have very correctly pointed out that this amount is going to be this much. And therefore, if you reduce this amount from the above, the amount of taxable commuted pension would be this much. Correct? Everybody got it? Taxable commuted pension, I hope everybody got it. Right? Very good. Okay, because it's a homework sum, I cannot spend too much time. I would have expected that at least this calculation, you had done it. Okay, now let's move to the next point, which is the leave encashment. Leave encashment, just put the amount that he has actually received. He has received 3,15,000. So put it in the outer column. Now in the inner column, we will calculate least of the following, which is exempt under section. Which section leave encashment? GPLRB 1010, 1010A, 1010, double A. Leave encashment 1010, double A. Okay. So, but you write the section number only if you remember correctly. If you have a doubt, don't write the number. Okay. First, you put the notified limit. How much, up to what limit is the exemption given, the statutory limit. So that is 25 lakhs. It's easy to put, na? So just put it. There is no mention that the person has already used so and so part of it in the earlier part. So then you give the full amount. Okay. Then you also mention the amount of leave salary actually received, which is 3,15,000. So these are easy numbers that you can put in the inner column. Then you do the difficult ones, that you need to find out 10 months salary based on last drawn salary. Okay, 10 months salary. Here also salary is basic plus DA plus commission based on fixed percentage of turnover. Can you see in the sum there is commission based on fixed percentage of turnover? Can you see in the sum? Or can you see in the sum there is DA? No. So fine, if there is nothing, then just use basic. Assume that there is nothing, those things are zero. Okay, all right. Some people have already calculated. Oh my God, let's be fast. So 10 months average salary will be 25,000 into 10, 2,50,000. Fourth part, let us calculate the leave entitlement. Leave entitlement over here will be 30 days per annum he was allowed, and he has served 25 years, 9 months. So you tell me how many years, how many days of leave was he allowed? Complete years, he was given a leave of, because here you need to see, for completed years, the employer was giving him leave. So for 25 years into 30 days per year, he was getting a leave. Okay, so he had total of 750 days. He had a total of 750 days. Out of which, you see how many he has used. He has used, but he has accumulated 15 days per annum. He has accumulated 15 days per annum. That means he has used 15 days per annum. Out of 30, he has used 15 and he has accumulated 15. Very good. Okay. So let us find how much he has used. He has used 15 days into per annum 25. Okay. So he got 750 days. He spent 375 days. And the leave entitlement or leave credit remaining is 375 days. Everybody on the same page? So if he has got a leave of 375 days, then what is the fourth component, which is, leave entitlement due? It is going to be 375 days into, can't see in the chat box what you're writing. $375 days, firstly you will convert into months. 375 by 30 is number of months. Then you will multiply it with the monthly salary, which in this case is 25,000. So you will get the amount, which is how many? How much? How have you calculated? 312,500. Correct. So if 312,500, other amount is 2,50,000, other amount is 315,000, other amount is 25 lakhs. The least of all looks like 312,500. The least of all looks like, the least of all looks like 2,50,000. Yes. So 2,50,000 is going to be exempted. Okay, correct. 2,50,000 will be exempted. And what will you get? Balance of 65,000 will be taxable as leave encashment. 65,000 is taxable as leave encashment. Don't worry about beautiful solutions. I will share with them. In fact, you already have it uploaded on the portal. Okay, the beautiful ones you will get. Right now, you try to, even in unbeautified form, at least try to apply your mind. Okay. All right, pension we have done. Now we are left to the last point, that he got a gift voucher of 5,000 on his retirement, and his colleagues also bought him a mobile phone from their own contribution worth 50,000. So what happens to that? Now this you have not studied yet. Okay, perquisite. This forms part of perquisite. If you get a gift voucher, then what happens? If you get a mobile phone as gift, then what happens? Now you see there are two things. Please be careful. And you don't know what to do with perquisite. That's okay. But there is something that you can still understand. Gift voucher you have got from your employer in recognition of employer-employee relationship. Okay. So no matter we tax it, we exempt it, whatever we do with it, but at least we are sure that we deal with it under the head salary income, because there is an employer-employee relationship when you receive gift voucher from your employer. Okay. यू मे से मैम ये तो ग्रेजुएटस है, गिफ्ट तो अपने मन से देते हैं, कोई ऑब्लिगेशन नहीं है, सीटीसी में नहीं लिखा होता है. दैट्स ओके, but it is given by employer in connection with the employer-employee relationship. If this person were not employed with the company, the employer would have not given him 5,000 rupees voucher, है ना? So it's an employer-employee relationship. All right, we will treat it under salaries. Now let me for now just assume that this gift is 5,000 rupees. So up to 5,000 they get exemption on gifts. Okay, so just assume that up to 5,000, because there's an exemption on gifts, so nothing is taxable. For the time being, assume why and what we will deal when we deal perquisites, you will understand. Okay, so at least for the gift voucher, you make it exempt. Say it is up to 5,000, it is exempt. Second part, mobile phone. Now you tell me who has given him a mobile phone. If you have, why I asked you to read the question carefully. Who has given, not 50,000, 5,000 is the limit, Divya. Okay, who has given him mobile phone? Colleagues. Employer has not given. What happens with us when we read a sum of salary? Mr. X was employed with XYZ Limited. But there itself we close our head that okay, this is a salary sum. This question is salary sum. No matter what, we will deal with it under the head salary. This is our presumption. This is our perception when we read a sum. Please read the sum carefully. If you have received the amount from your colleague, not from your employer, then there is no employer-employee relationship between you and your colleague. Are we sure about that? We are all, X and Y are both employed with the company. It doesn't mean that they are employer and employee of each other. Correct? Yes. There is no employer-employee relationship. You do whatever with it, but don't tax it under the head salary. Okay? That is one part of it. Now, ma'am, if it is not salary, then what it is? So you will, that also you will do in the, when you subsequently cover all the heads of income. But let me for now tell you that that will go under income from other sources. Okay. And when you do income from other sources, then you will find that mobile phone is not a covered property. It is not property under income from other sources, and therefore there is no tax on it. For now, ma'am, we didn't understand this. So for now, you just write mobile phone received from colleague is not in connection with employer-employee relationship. It is not taxable under head salary. It is taxable under the head other sources. It is not a property, and so it is not taxable actually. But reasons we will deal with later when we do income from other sources. Okay. Now I'm sure you could not note down so much so fast. So I am just showing the solution to you. Ma'am, if it would be gift from relative, then it would be exempt. Yes, this also you are saying from your, knowledge of, from your knowledge you may have gained otherwise, but this has also come from other income from other sources. This gift from relative is not taxable. This knowledge is also not a salary head knowledge. It is coming from income from other sources. When you do that chapter, you will understand. Okay. So this is the solution. It is already uploaded. We solved it in the sum. If any step you missed, you could not follow in the class, please go to the solution uploaded on the portal. Okay. And you find it. All right. It is there as part of the solution of last class uploaded also. It is there in this class's PDF also that I have uploaded today. You can go and check over there. All right. total amount, if you add up all the components, you must have got gross salary at 486,333. Okay. And then you had to give a standard deduction, which again you don't know because you have not learned yet. But briefly, if you remember from our last class, that in default regime, the standard deduction is 75,000 or amount of salary, whichever is lower. In this case, 75,000 is lower. So just reduce that from gross salary and you get net taxable salary. Okay. Chalo, I hope this homework was good. You read carefully. You found that there are so many things to carefully read. Person is covered under Payment of Gratuity Act or not. Person is under default or optional regime. Person is receiving something from employer or otherwise. You know, so many things to see. So just be careful. Okay. It was good for brushing up. Thank you. Very good. Chalo. Now let's talk about what we are going to be doing today. So this is a new class, new topics. We quickly have brushed up what we did. So we are warmed up. That warming up was very important to do sums with these new things that we will do now. Okay. We will do deductions under section 16 definitely. And we will also do some perquisites. Perquisites, what do they mean? We will do that. Then even, if they are non-monetary perquisites, that means if they are not in monetary terms. So you don't receive 5,000 rupees in your bank account. You get something actually, a non-monetary item. Then you also have to find out how to value that item, because how will you include it in the calculation? You have to value it also. So there are valuation rules given in the income tax law. When something is given to you in non-monetary form, then how do you determine the monetary value? That also they have given you as rules. Okay. So then we need to learn the rules. Whatever they have given, we need to calculate it like that only. All right. So we will solve different types of these. The list that you are seeing on the screen. This is generally the very popular ones. You will see at least 2 of them in, most of the sums. Right? They are so popular. Therefore, these will need special attention. And there are others also. We will do all of them. Don't worry. Okay. And after that, I will give you some homework. I will give you a cheat sheet in your home for your home practice. Cheat sheet for what? Because by the time you have done all this, you will be thoroughly confused. Ma'am, salary has, salary is like Ravan. It has 10 heads. It has 10 meanings in the act. For this purpose, salary means this. For this purpose, salary means that. How will we remember, ma'am, so much? So I have made a cheat sheet, 1-page summary. That what is the meaning of salary for different purposes. You will tick it, you will keep it, remember, revise it before you go to exam. Okay, these cheat sheets, what I popularly call cheat sheets, are not the pieces of paper that you will put it in your pocket when you go to exam. These are not for cheating during exam. These are for brushing up the concept just before the exam. Okay, so they are 1-page summaries. Generally, my cheat sheets are in 1 page. And I try to, summarize important concepts or concepts which I feel students get confused about. Okay. So I will give you two cheat sheets. One is what is the meaning of salary for different purposes, and one is what is the difference in treatment of various things under optional and default regime. Because some things is taxable under default regime, some it's not taxable. It is very confusing. Optional regime, generally you get most of the benefits. But again, standard deduction is lower in optional and it is higher in default. So there is a lot of confusion. Sometimes this is better, sometimes that is better. So in one sheet, we'll summarize what is the difference between optional and default regime. Okay. All right. Chalo. Please look forward to this class. It's going to be very interesting. Okay. All right. Let's do deductions under section 16. We had started in the last class. There are 3 types of deductions under section 16. It's a comprehensive list of 3 deductions. There is no deduction beyond this. Okay. One is standard deduction. One is entertainment allowance to government employees. And one is professional tax. Okay. So normally what is in the bigger scheme of things, in the bigger picture, where does everything fall? You calculate different components of salary, like you can see on the screen. You calculate bonus, DA, taxable allowances, taxable perquisites, and you arrive at gross salary. From that, you reduce the deductions under section 16, which is say totaling to point number E. And then you derive net taxable salary, which is D minus E equal to F. Okay, this is the pro forma. Now, how do you calculate E? How do you calculate the deductions? First is standard deduction. Remember, it is given so that the employee can make some personal expenses, but it is not linked to the amount of personal expense. Okay. Regardless of what the employee is spending, the lawmakers have said we will give you a rebate of a deduction of 50,000 if you choose optional regime and 75,000 if you choose default regime. Why difference? They want to promote default regime. They want more and more people to go to default regime, but at the same time, they don't want to increase the incentives and other exemptions available under this regime. Okay, so that's why you will find that there are more exemptions under optional regime than default regime because they don't want to give so many exemptions, but they want people to gradually adopt default. So they have said that standard deduction we will give you more in default. This is the only benefit in default which you are getting more than optional. When you do the cheat sheet, you will understand. This is the only benefit. Okay. So ma'am, then why we choose optional? Because why we choose default? Because default, first of all, you don't choose, it's the default regime. Secondly, the tax rates are lower in default regime. That's why it may so work out that default regime plays better for the employee. Okay. So standard deduction 50 under optional, 75 under default. And what if the amount of salary is lower than these amounts? Then obviously you restrict it to the amount of salary. Okay. Achha. Next, entertainment allowance. Entertainment allowance to government employee only. Entertainment means generally they have to take care of hospitality and other expenses on their customers. And in case of public officials, this is too much. Okay, so they get special allowances called entertainment allowance to make those expenses. Now deduction is available under optional regime for government employees. Lower of the following: 1/5 of basic salary only. No DA, no forming part, no commission, no nothing. Okay, only basic. 1/5 of basic or 5,000 rupees per annum or entertainment allowance actually received. It doesn't matter how much was spent. Okay, when we do deductions, it doesn't matter how much was spent. Okay, at least in the first two. It matters in case of professional tax. Okay, so in the first two limbs, standard deduction and entertainment allowance, what was actually spent does not matter. All right. So entertainment allowance deduction is available to government employee under optional regime only. Lower of 1/5 of basic salary, 5,000 rupees, or amount received regardless of amount spent. Okay. Ma'am, do we have to learn? Yes. Ma'am, is it very popular? Not very. Because it is only for government employees and generally you will not even find entertainment allowance being received. Okay. All right. Third, professional tax. Professional tax paid. It is allowed on payment basis. So professional, even if the employee has paid professional tax for 2 years in 1 year, he will get on payment basis together in the year in which he has made the payment. Okay, so he has paid for which year does not matter. What he has paid during the year actually matters. So most of the things you will find that, are on accrual basis. That is, if it is this year, then you tax it in this year. But salary is due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. And in case of professional tax deduction, it is on payment basis only, cash basis only. Okay. So professional tax paid during the previous year up to maximum 2,500 per annum is the reduction that the employee will get. Okay. But what if professional tax is borne by the employer on behalf of employee? That means employer said, your professional tax, I will not deduct from your payslip. I will pay separately. Okay. So then what happens? This also becomes a perquisite because this is a benefit given by the employer to employee in the employer-employer relationship. Okay. So this also becomes a part of salary. So you will first include it as part of salary and then reduce the reduction up to maximum 2,500 per annum. Okay. Is it available under both regimes? No. This is also only available under optional regime. So entertainment allowance only to government employees, optional regime only, lower of 1/5 of basic, 5,000 or amount received, and professional tax on payment basis up to maximum 2,500 per annum. And if employer has paid a part of it or whole of it, then whatever employer has paid will first form part of salary as taxable perquisite, and then the amount will be reduced in the deductions up to maximum 2,500 per annum. But that is only under optional regime, no benefit under default regime. So out of these three deductions, if I have to ask you, bhai, what do you get under default regime? You will say, ma'am, 75,000. And if I ask you, bhai, what do you get under optional regime? You will say, ma'am, 50,000 plus entertainment allowance deduction, if any, plus professional tax deduction, if any. Am I clear? Am I clear? More or less. When you do an illustration, the less will also get covered. Okay, chalo. All right. Please look at the sum. Please look at the sum. Mr. Goel receives the following emoluments. He is receiving basic pay, DNS allowance, commission, entertainment allowance, medical expense, professional tax, out of which some is paid by the employer. So you know that if some part of it is paid by employer, then you will first include it in tax as a taxable salary, and then you will reduce the deduction. Okay, all right. And he contributes something towards RPF. See, there is one line on contribution towards recognized provident fund. I have not taught you that yet. I'll just tell you the treatment for now. You remember. Later, when you study it, you will understand. Okay. If we get into this line, our complete class will go into recognized provident fund. So I will not explain anything right now. You just write it for now and understand later. Okay. Chalo, theek hai. Basic dearness, commission, entertainment, medical expenses reimbursed. Medical expense also you may not know now. I will tell you, you write it down for the time being. He has no other income. Please determine taxable income from salary. Okay, so that means they want you to determine net salary. They want you to determine gross salary. They want you to give deductions under section 16. Then they want you to determine net salary. He's a state government employee. If he's a government employee, then out of the list that we have got, what difference does it make if he's a government employee? There are no terminal benefits, so there is no exemption for government employee as such. What difference does it make if Mr. Goel is a government employee? Who will tell me? Entertainment allowance ka deduction. Yes, under section 16. Okay. Solve one example on professional tax. Yahi hai Priyanka. Dekh lo. Chalo. Let's solve it. Let's solve this. सबसे पहले write down basic. पहले हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? अच्छा, which regime we? Sorry, I didn't see in the question. कौन सा regime बोला गया था करने? Let me go back. बोला ही नहीं कुछ. अरे यार, कौन सा regime है? Nothing mentioned for default. Nothing mentioned for default. अच्छा सुनो. If nothing is mentioned and you don't have time, then you do default. If nothing is mentioned but you think some marks are too much and you have time, then you do both. ठीक है? Whatever you do, you mention the assumption that nothing was mentioned, so I assume this. ठीक है ना? Huh? If you have time, you do both. If you don't have time, you only choose. Generally, you should choose default and do that. ठीक है? But na, if you see कि बहुत सारा the maximum sum is on those allowances or deductions or calculations which you get under optional regime. It is going to be completely taxable under default regime or something like that. And you see that the marks will not justify your working under default regime. Then you assume optional and you solve accordingly. Okay? Matlab, I am trying to say that when you look at the marks allotted for the sum, try to estimate what kind of solution they are wanting to justify the marks. Accordingly, make your assumption. Shortcut लेके आप कर सकते हैं. आप जो भी assume करें, it is perfectly okay. But chance क्यों ले? क्योंकि आप लड़ाई किससे करेंगे जब papers evaluate होंगे? Try to understand कि आपको वो जब question दिया गया, उन्होंने क्या सोच के इतना marks allot किया, वो ही scheme assume करके आप calculation करना. और एकदम ही कुछ नहीं समझ में आए और टाइम है आपके पास तो दोनों कर लेना. ठीक है? चलो. टाइम वैसे होना बहुत मुश्किल है. आई विल टेल यू इन एडवांस ओनली. बी वेरी प्रॉम्प्ट इन डीटी पेपर्स. पेपर खत्म करना इज अ चैलेंज इन इटसेल्फ. ओके ठीक है, तो चलो पहले फिर हम लोग डिफॉल्ट कर लेते हैं। हम लोग अपने सोल्यूशन प्रैक्टिस के लिए तो दोनों ही करेंगे, एग्जाम में फिर देखा जाएगा, जो टाइम मिलेगा उस हिसाब से। चलो डिफॉल्ट, डिफॉल्ट के अंडर अगर कर रहे हैं तो पहले तो बेसिक निकाल लो। बेसिक दिया है 4 लाख, उसके बाद बोला है हम लोगों को डीए, डीए डीए दिया है 1,50,000। उसके बाद हमको बोला है कमीशन, कमीशन दिया है 1 लाख। उसके बाद हमको बोला है एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस। तो पहले तो हम पूरा अमाउंट रिसीव यहाँ पे लिख लेंगे, डिडक्शन कुछ देंगे भी तो लास्ट में जाके देंगे ना। इट इज बिलो द लाइन ऑफ ग्रॉस सैलरी, हियर यू डोंट स्टार्ट गिविंग डिडक्शन। ओके प्लीज, नॉर्मली यू हैव बीन डूइंग एग्जेम्पशंस, अगर एचआरए होता आप यहीं पे एग्जेम्पशन निकालने बैठ जाते। बेसिकली ओनली द टैक्सेबल पार्ट ऑफ दैट एचआरए वुड हैव एंटर्ड इनटू ग्रॉस सैलरी, लेकिन एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस कंप्लीटली एंटर होगा इनटू ग्रॉस सैलरी। ग्रॉस सैलरी से नीचे जब आप डिडक्शंस देंगे बिलो द लाइन आइटम, वहां आप एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस का डिडक्शन देंगे इफ एप्लीकेबल, और फिर नेट सैलरी निकालेंगे। ओके तो एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस 40,000। आप पूरा पूरा लिखना, आई एम जस्ट राइटिंग लाइक दिस, यू विल राइट इन फुल नंबर्स, अदरवाइज यू विल गेट कंफ्यूज। ओके और एम्प्लॉइज कंट्रीब्यूशन टू आरपीएफ, वो एक चीज लिखा था ना उसमें, आप अभी के लिए अज्यूम कर लो कि वो एग्जाम है। ठीक है, क्यों क्या हम लोग बाद में आपको जब आप पढ़ लोगे ना आप समझ जाओगे, अभी जस्ट अज्यूम इट इज एग्जाम। ओके ऑल राइट। उसके बाद मेडिकल एक्सपेंस एक था, मेडिकल एक्सपेंस रीइंबर्स्ड। मेडिकल एक्सपेंसेस में आप पूरा अमाउंट ले लो 25K, एक बार के लिए अज्यूम कर लो वो टैक्सेबल है। क्यों क्या अगेन जब हम लोग वो पढ़ेंगे तब आप समझोगे। ओके उसके बाद था प्रोफेशनल टैक्स पेड बाय एम्प्लॉयर बिकॉज दैट इज टैक्सेबल परक्विजिट। To the extent it is borne by employer, it is a benefit given by employer. Okay, borne by employer मतलब employer ने अपने पॉकेट से दे दिया, आपके पे स्लिप से नहीं काटा। Okay, so P tax borne by employer is actually only 1K. Total P tax is 2K, but to the extent it is borne by employer, it's a taxable purpose. इन सब को टोटल करेंगे तो I think you will be getting 7.16 lakhs. Please confirm. हम्म यस ओके। अब हम लोग ग्रॉस सैलरी आ गया हमारा, हाँ ये हो गया ग्रॉस सैलरी। अब हमको डिडक्शंस लेस करके निकालना है नेट सैलरी। डिडक्शंस में सबसे पहले आता है स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन। तो डिफॉल्ट रेजिम में कितना मिलता है? 75,000, 75,000 ठीक है। अच्छा फिर आता है एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस का डिडक्शन, डिफॉल्ट रेजिम में कितना मिलता है? नहीं मिलता है, करेक्ट। उसके बाद आता है पी टैक्स का डिडक्शन, डिफॉल्ट रेजिम में कितना मिलता है? नहीं मिलता है। तो सिर्फ आप 75,000 कम करेंगे और नेट सैलरी आ जाएगी 6,41,000। इज द सोल्यूशन अंडर डिफॉल्ट रेजिम क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू? क्लियर क्लियर ओके ठीक है। चलो नाउ लेट्स डू द ऑप्शनल रेजिम। ऑप्शनल में आप फिर से सब कुछ प्लॉट करेंगे, बेसिक, डीए। बेसिकली आई एम नॉट राइटिंग ऑल ऑफ दैट अगेन, क्योंकि रेजिम कुछ भी हो, ग्रॉस सैलरी में इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस कोई डिफरेंस नहीं हुआ। देयर वाज नो ट्रीटमेंट व्हिच वाज डिफरेंट इन टैक्सेबिलिटी इन ग्रॉस सैलरी। ओके सो लेट मी जस्ट कॉपी ग्रॉस सैलरी फ्रॉम द लास्ट सोल्यूशन। ठीक है, यू कैन ऑल्सो डू दैट इन योर एग्जाम टू सेव टाइम, कि ग्रॉस सैलरी टेकन सेम एज डिफॉल्ट रेजिम बिकॉज नो डिफरेंस इन ट्रीटमेंट अंडर बोथ रेजिम। ओके यहाँ पे लकीली मतलब कंपोनेंट्स ऐसे थे कि कोई डिफरेंस नहीं था। अगर आप देखोगे कि कंपोनेंट्स में डिफरेंस है तो प्लीज दोबारा कैलकुलेट करना। ठीक है अच्छा उसके बाद लेस डिडक्शंस अंडर चैप्टर 16। सो अगर आपको डिडक्शन लेना है सबसे पहले स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन, हाउ मच विल यू गिव अंडर डिफॉल्ट रेजिम, सॉरी अंडर ऑप्शनल रेजिम? 50,000 ठीक है। हाउ मच विल यू गिव फॉर एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस? इज इट अवेलेबल? एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस का डिडक्शन अवेलेबल है? यस। क्यों? ये तो गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय नहीं है, क्यों मिल रहा है इसको? गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय है। हाँ, ये गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय है, इसलिए मिल रहा है। ओके, प्लीज चेक। इज अ गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय, दैट्स व्हाई ही इज गेटिंग। ओके, सो लोअर ऑफ द फॉलोइंग ही विल गेट। लोअर ऑफ द फॉलोइंग में 1/5 ऑफ बेसिक हो जाएगा। 1/5 ऑफ बेसिक अगर लेंगे हम लोग, तो बेसिक कितना है पर मंथ? 1/5 ऑफ बेसिक कितना है? 4 lakhs। सो ये आपको बेसिक जब लेना है ना, आपको मंथली नहीं, आपको एनुअल अमाउंट लेना है। ये क्या हुआ? हम्म। बाकी जगह आप मंथली सैलरी ले रहे थे बिकॉज यू वर ऑल्सो मल्टीप्लाइंग बाय द नंबर ऑफ ईयर्स टू यू नो गिव दैट मेनी मंथ्स ऑफ सैलरी एज अ डिडक्शन। मतलब इन दोज केसेस दे मेंशन्ड मंथली सैलरी लेना है, इसलिए यू वर टेकिंग मंथली। यहाँ पे नहीं मेंशन है तो एनुअल सैलरी लेंगे आप। ओके, सो यू टेक एनुअल बेसिक, you will get 80,000 over here. And the third part was pre-tax paid. Pre-tax कोई भी पे करे, आप पे करे, कोई भी पे करे, मिलेगा पूरा पेमेंट। तो 2,000, 1,000 paid by employer, 1,000 paid by employee. How much did you get? अच्छा, sorry, I didn't calculate the third limb of entertainment ना, sorry. Third limb of entertainment is 5,000. So lower of the following क्या होगा? 50, 80 और 5 का least of the following क्या है? अमाउंट रिसीव था 40,000, तो 45 और 80 का लीस्ट ऑफ द फॉलोइंग एक्चुअली है 5,000। एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस का लीस्ट ऑफ द फॉलोइंग एग्जाम्प्ट है 5,000, तो डिडक्शन मिलेगा 5,000 फॉर एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस। एंड हाउ मच इज द स्टैट्यूटरी अमाउंट? द लिमिट इज 5,000 अगेन। मतलब दैट इज व्हाट द एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस। सो थर्ड पार्ट इज प्रोफेशनल टैक्स। प्रोफेशनल टैक्स में हाउ मच हैज बीन पेड? 1,000 बाय यू, 1,000 बाय एम्प्लॉयर, टोटल 2,000। So if I have to calculate total deductions, तो standard deduction है 50,000। Entertainment allowance का deduction calculated at least of the following is 5,000। Professional tax का deduction is 2,000। Total deductions is 57,000। Net salary is 7,16,000 minus 57,000, which is 6,59,000। Have we all got this? चलो ठीक है। यहाँ पे आपको इन द डेक सोल्यूशन दिया हुआ है दोनों रेजिम में। हाँ, यहाँ पे इस साइड में डिफॉल्ट रेजिम दिया है, इस साइड में पैरेलल ऑप्शनल रेजिम दिया है। ये प्रेजेंटेशन मैंने इसलिए दिया है ताकि आप वन पेज यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस। आई विल से यू शुड टिक दिस आल्सो इन योर सोल्यूशन, मतलब इन योर होम नोट्स यू शुड मार्क दिस स्लाइड, क्योंकि डिडक्शंस को एक पेज में समझने के लिए ये स्लाइड बहुत अच्छा है। ओके, बट इसमें बहुत सारी चीजें हिडन है जो हमने, मतलब जो देखनी चाहिए पर है नहीं, कि जैसे कि ये सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट, ये गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय को ही मिलता है। हाँ, ये चीज देखने की है। बाकी ऑप्शनल और डिफॉल्ट रेजिम का तो कंपैरिजन इसमें अच्छे से है ही, बट एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस का रिडक्शन सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय को मिलता है। ये स्लाइड से निकल के नहीं आ रहा, तो प्लीज राइट इट समवेयर। दिस हैज बीन गिवन बिकॉज ऑफ गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय। ओके, चलो ठीक है। Now we will be doing perquisites. Okay, let us take a quick 5 minute break because normally I give you a break at 7:30. लेकिन ये टॉपिक शुरू करने से पहले आई थिंक क्योंकि अब हम लोग कुछ और ही डिस्कस करने वाले हैं, अभी तक हम लोग जो कर रहे थे वो कुछ और ही था। ठीक है, तो अभी लेट्स टेक अ 5 minute ब्रेक। उसके बाद एट वन गो वी विल डू परक्विजिट्स। नो नो फर्दर ब्रेक एट 7:30। ठीक है, people who join back early, please look at this slide. Okay, चलो ओके। टेक टीम 5 minute break please. Okay, thank you. Yes. So are we back? Please give in the chat box if you're back, because if you missed the first concept, then it will be difficult to catch up. Chalo, ठीक है. Lot of you have written, you are back. Okay. Now we are doing perquisites. This set of conversation will is very different from what you have been doing. So regardless of how much you understood, did not understand, please apply your fresh mind to this. Okay, try to give it a fresh thought and embrace it independently. Perquisite is also one part of salary which you find nowadays in CPCs. Okay, सिर्फ cash में जो मिलता है is not enough. People want more. So, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है कि perquisites are necessarily non-monetary benefits only. They can be in cash also. Any facility, benefit provided to employee out of the way. That means even if you are helping an employee in monetary terms, but the primary obligation of doing it was on the employee, and you have gone out of your way and helped him, then even that can be perquisite. Okay, giving him something in kind, giving him a facility, or making or giving him money for things which you did not have to originally pay. It was he who should have paid, but you are giving him money to as reimbursement or to compensate him for making those personal expenditure. Then even that can be, that cash benefit can also be perquisite. Okay, so firstly तो clear in your mind, ये perks मतलब non cash होता है, ऐसा नहीं है, perks cash भी हो सकता है. What you need to see is primary obligation किसका है. Employer had to firstly make the expense or employee. Okay, so reimbursement अगर मैम ऑफिशियल एक्सपेंस होता है, हमको ना जॉब में एम्प्लॉयर बोलते हैं यहाँ जाओ वहां जाओ और बहुत इधर उधर घूमना पड़ता है और कन्वेंस एक्सपेंस लगता है, तो हम क्या करें, वो भी क्या हमारे याद में टैक्स है. So see, if you are incurring an expense in the official course of duty, your employer has asked you to visit X, Y, Z places in one day and then come back and give a report to him. Okay, and therefore you incurred a lot of conveyance expense and your employer said, okay, you take it back from me. Now this is not a benefit to you. He was, you should have, I mean, it is the company's own business expense because you have incurred it in the discharge of your official duty. You have not made any personal benefit out of that expense. Okay, so reimbursement of official expense is not a perquisite because it has not given the employee any benefit. Okay, then ma'am, if it arises from employer-employee relationship, only then it is perquisite. If your employer gives you something gratuitously, otherwise, which is not in connection with employer-employee relationship, then you have to treat it otherwise. Okay, so employer-employee relationships essence will remain throughout the head salary. Okay, and if it happens during profession, if you get something like in the, suppose एक CA है, CA को उनका client बहुत कुछ दे रहे हैं, आजकल तो CA को client perquisite देते हैं. मैम क्या वो भी सैलरी होता है? क्लाइंट ने गाड़ी दे दी, क्या करें अब? इनने सीए को गाड़ी दे दी, सपोज, देते नहीं है लेकिन अगर दे दी तो वो परक्विजिट नहीं होता क्योंकि सीए इज नॉट एन एम्प्लॉय ऑफ द क्लाइंट. I'm talking about a practicing CA who's suppose a consultant of the client. Okay, so in the absence of employer-employee relationship, even if there is a non-monetary benefit, it does not automatically become a perquisite under the head salary, because what the CA consultant is getting from his client is not salary income, he is getting professional fees. So whatever he is getting, even if he is getting a non-monetary benefit and you want to tax it, you tax it, but it will be under the head business income, profits and gains from business or profession. It will not be under the head salaries because there is no employer-employee relationship. Okay, perquisite will become taxable only if legit. What do I mean by that? I mean by that suppose an employee was Mr. X was employed with X Limited. Okay, and house property that you stay in this house. Okay, then Mr. X left employment. He went and joined by Limited. Okay, now he was given house by X Limited because he was an employee of X Limited. Okay, Now, when he has gone and joined Y Limited, X Limited does not have any obligation to give him a house. For some reason, suppose he continued to enjoy that property. He moved to Y Limited, but he did not vacate the house given by X Limited. He continued to stay in that. And he did not take any permission from X Limited that, sir, can I please stay for 6 more months till I find a new house? He didn't take any permission. He was just silently enjoying the property. कि भाई कोई पकड़ेगा तब देखेंगे, तब तक चुपचाप enjoy करते हैं. ठीक है? Unauthorized or illegit use of any benefit which employee somehow took it. Unauthorized advantage taken by employee without employer's consent is not a benefit which actually is taxable perquisite. Okay, it's not a benefit which is actually taxable perquisite. Okay, so right. Okay, so unauthorized advantage. In our example, employee continued to occupy employer's house for 6 months even after his employment had ceased. That was also without permission of employer. This is unauthorized use. ये फायदा उठाना हुआ, ये फायदा देना नहीं हुआ. Okay, तो ये गलत है. This is not allowed. And actually, now whether the employer sues him for that under a separate civil suit, that is a tax purpose. What are we going to do? At least whatever benefit he has enjoyed during those 6 months, we cannot tax it as salary. It may be taxed as income from other sources. We don't know, but not under salary, because what has to flow from employer to employee has to be a legit benefit under employer-employee relationship, and this is not that. So this cannot be salary. Okay. Somebody saying audio breaking. Now is it okay? Then your voice is. Now is it okay? हेलो. ओके ओके, ठीक है, चलो. उसके बाद ऑडियो ब्रेकिंग. अदर सोर्स होगा मैम, इट्स प्रोफेशनल फी. फॉर व्हाट somebody said other source, maybe you said for the CA part was professional fees. Okay, अच्छा. Then defined under section 17(2), perquisite section 17 as an inclusive definition. Like, you know, in tax, you know, mostly they don't give a conclusive definition or exhaustive definition that this means this. If they define like this, then they will be bound by the meaning of the terms they have thought about. When the lawmakers draft law, a lot of times they are not able to imagine how far with evolving times things can change. So they generally leave an inclusive definition that so far now I can understand that, you know, I can contemplate X, Y, Z. These can be the maximum benefits that can be given. But with changing times, if there can be AA, AB, AC, AD also, then we will also factor them eventually. So they keep that room open and they make an inclusive definition. Perquisite includes, like that they have defined. Okay. Now there are 3 types of perquisites. One in terms of tax treatment, one which is taxable in the case of all employees, one in the case of all employees, and one which is taxable only in the case of specific employees. Okay, so let's do the 3 buckets. One taxable for all, one tax free for all, and one taxable only in specific cases. Okay, all right. Chalo, next. Ones which are taxable for all. RFA means rent-free accommodation. Rent-free accommodation. Okay. So normally rent-free accommodation is taxable for all kinds of employees. Government employee हो, कोई भी हो, ठीक है. अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट जजेस को घर दिया जा रहा है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट जजेस को एम्प्लॉयर ने घर दे दिया. ओके, एम्प्लॉयर माने गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. तो अगर या गवर्नमेंट ऑफ द रेस्पेक्टिव स्टेट, तो अगर उनको दिया जा रहा है अकोमोडेशन, वो भी अंडर ऑप्शनल रेजिम, तो वो एग्जेम्प्ट है. मतलब रेंट फ्री अकोमोडेशन रिसीव्ड judges is exempt perquisite under optional regime, but it is taxable perquisite under default regime. And for all other employees, it is taxable perquisite under both regimes. Okay. I hope it is clear. So exception is only for Supreme Court, High Court judges under optional regime. Okay, chalo. Concessional accommodation. Concession, why it's not taxable in hands of those judges? That's how the law is made. Okay, they do just not employment duty. They have a little bit more of judicial duty. They have a very highly prestigious duty. So they are given a lot of benefits which others are not. That's good. Okay. What about point 2? Does reimbursement come under salary? I think you were talking about the last slide. Reimbursement of okay. अच्छा, कंसेशनल अकोमोडेशन क्या होता है? अगर आपको अकोमोडेशन कंप्लीटली फ्री में दे दे, घर रहने को दे दे, कुछ नहीं चार्ज करे, तो उसको बोलते हैं रेंट फ्री अकोमोडेशन. बट अगर सस्ते में दे दे, डिस्काउंट में दे दे कि उसका मार्केट रेंट तो 10,000 रुपीज पर मंथ है, पर आपसे खाली 2,000 रुपीज पर मंथ लेंगे, 8,000 रुपीज डिस्काउंट, फॉर एग्जाम्पल कितना भी डिस्काउंट दिया, तो कंसेशनल अकोमोडेशन मतलब अकोमोडेशन गिवन बाय एम्प्लॉयर बट एट लोअर देन मार्केट रेंट, so with some discount, okay, then that is also taxable perquisite for all. So rent free or concessional accommodation actually you treat similarly, okay, and but for concessional accommodation there is an element that you are also receiving something from the employee. It is not completely free of rent, है ना? You're receiving some rent, it may not be up to the market rent. So what you are receiving from the employee, all the cases for perquisites in general, if employer gets back something from the employee, that okay, X should be by expenditure, I am contributing Y towards it. 100 rupees is suppose the thing that should have been spent on something, and employee is saying that I will give you 20 rupees back, employer, or you deduct that from my salary, rest 80 you pay or you bear, okay, then whatever is coming back from employee, suppose 20 in this case, that cannot be perquisite now. He is saying that you deducted from my salary, then that does not become a benefit anymore. So you will reduce the amount that you have recovered from the employee, because it cannot be taxable perquisite if he has paid you back and actually there is no benefit in his hands. Okay, for all perquisites, if you receive anything back from the employee, you will reduce it. Okay, chalo. Next, reimbursement of employee obligation. So for example, employee was supposed to hire a domestic servant for his personal use. Okay, if you have a doubt, I am not sure if you can unmute yourself, please put it in the chat box. Okay, so if employee wanted to hire a domestic servant for his personal use, it was not connected to his official duty or employment, he wanted to hire a personal domestic servant. Okay, now employer said, okay, you hire, you pay him also, but whatever you have spent, I will reimburse to you. Okay, whatever you will spend, I will reimburse to you. Now this is a benefit given. Why? This is a cash benefit given. Okay, but why is it a perquisite? Because the primary obligation of paying to the domestic servant was of the employee. It is your employer's policy. Otherwise, there was no need for employer to pay domestic servant salary of employee. Okay, primary obligation was of employee. He paid. Employer said, okay, I will pay you back. So this reimbursement is a cash facility or benefit of the nature of perquisite, which is taxable for all employees under both regimes. Okay, chalo. Next, life insurance premium. So if you have paid life insurance premium for a specific employee as policy holder, please now understand, there are two types of insurance policies. One is where employee has taken his personal life insurance. Okay, where suppose he, his spouse, children, parents are covered. It is his personal policy. Okay, so he is the primary policy holder and he is supposed to pay the insurance premium. And then the employer says, okay, you have paid now, I will pay you back. Then it is a obligation. Okay, it's a reimbursement of employee's obligation. That obligation was actually of the employee and employer has made it good. All right. So that reimbursement is actually taxable. because for a specific employee you have made that payment, and he is the primary, and it is his personal policy. Okay, that means employer otherwise had no business to make that payment. Employer need not have made that payment. They have voluntarily offered to pay something which employee should have paid otherwise. Okay, so that is taxable perquisite. But if employer takes a group insurance policy, group insurance means I have 100 employees. I go to XYZ insurance company and say that, you please cover all my employees in one policy, where policy will not be in their individual names. But if anything happens, then then that particular person or his family will claim actually a corporate life insurance policy for which I am paying you a premium based on expected life expectancy of my different employees, etc. We are calculating a premium and I'm paying it to you. But the policy is not in the name of individual employees, and the benefit is available to the employee only as long as he is an employee. He leaves employment and he goes to some other company, then my insurance policy will not cover him anymore. So my policy will cover 100 employees only as long as they are my employees. And tomorrow when another person joins the company, he will also be covered by this policy. Okay, this is group insurance policy which employer takes. Now, if employer pays group insurance premium, which may also be life insurance premium on behalf of employee, it is not a perquisite because there it is not in the personal name of the employee. Okay, it is for the employee only as long as he is an employee of the company, and otherwise it is not available. They do not have a defined right to receive the claim. No matter what, if I die, I will get. Okay, because it has a lot of conditions, expectancy that if you are not employed with the company, then you may not get. If tomorrow your employer stops paying that premium, okay, changes the group life insurer, then again that same policy does not cover you, right? So that means this is not a tangible benefit which you can relate one-to-one with the employee. Okay, and therefore it is. अभी ठीक है, ऑडियो ब्रेक हो रहा है. Is it okay now? Hello, is it okay? Is it okay? Okay, ठीक है, okay. हाँ, okay. So what I'm saying is कि personal insurance, if that is paid, मतलब personal policy of the employee, then employee has to otherwise pay, but employer wants to pay, so it is taxable perquisite. But if it is group insurance premium, okay, where employee doesn't know whether at all he will actually be able to get any benefit under this policy or not, because there are so many conditions associated with it, and he is not a primary policy holder as such. It is available to him only if he will be employed with a company, only if the employer continues to pay premium to this provider, only if the employer does not change the insurance provider. So because there are so many conditions and ifs and buts and uncertainty associated with it, so this kind of benefit is actually not a personal benefit to an employee, and this is not perquisite, taxable perquisite. Okay. Next, sweat equity shares. Sweat equity shares क्या होता है? Employee stock option scheme. आप लोगों ने accounts में पढ़ा है क्या? Employee stock option scheme. Have you understood? Have you read in your accounts chapter or anywhere? You know ना employee stock option scheme? मतलब employer अपनी ही company के shares employees को discount में दे देते हैं. Okay? Employer issues shares in his company or group company to his employees at a slightly discounted price. So employee gets benefit because he is an employee. It is in the employer-employee relationship. Employee gets shares at discount. That discount is benefit. So that is also a taxable perquisite. How will we calculate? We will do in the next slides. Okay. Then contribution to specific funds. So there is recognized provident fund, there is superannuation fund, there is a public provident fund. So many types of funds. If the employer contributes on behalf of the employee, then even that is a benefit to the employee, and that is also a taxable perquisite for all. But there are some limits,
and this is a separate discussion in itself. We will do in the next class, not even this class. Okay, so contribution to funds is also a taxable perquisite. How much, when, that we will do in the next class. Okay, so for now, this is the slide on taxable perquisites for all. Rent-free accommodation, concessional accommodation. Hello, now is it audible? Hello, is it audible? Yeah. Okay, okay. So rent-free accommodation, concessional accommodation, reimbursement of employees' obligation, which the primary obligation was on employee and employer wants to make it good. Okay, or life insurance premium, which is paid for employee as policy holder. Okay, for personal policy of employee, not being group life insurance premium. Okay, sweat equity shares issued to employees are discount. Contribution to specific funds. These are taxable perquisites for all employees. How will we calculate the taxable value? We will deal in the next slides. Chalo. Next, there are some more benefits which are taxable for all. Let's see. Following kinds of other benefits. इंटरेस्ट फ्री और कंसेशनल लोन, इसका क्या मतलब होता है? इंटरेस्ट फ्री और कंसेशनल लोन इज गिवन बाय एम्प्लॉयर टू एम्प्लॉई, okay, saying that I will not charge any interest from you, or the interest I will charge will be lower than the market rate or the rate which SBI is charging from you. Okay, so the benefit is not the loan, the benefit is the interest waiver. To some extent, I will waive off the interest from you. Either I will not charge interest at all or charge interest lower than what SBI is charging. Okay, so interest free or concessional loan is also a taxable perquisite for all. How, what, details later. Chalo. Traveling, touring and accommodation expenses. I'm not talking about leave travel concession. Leave travel concession money, jo leave travel when your trips are sponsored, that's a separate thing. Okay, because that's a personal trip which is sponsored. Here we are talking about, suppose expenses reimbursed by the employer. You have spent some traveling, tour and accommodation expense which has been reimbursed by the employer. Then the amount of taxable perquisite is the cost to the employer. The amount that is actually spent is what is your perquisite. And if to some extent you reduced some part of it from your payslip, you said that okay, 100 rupees is the total cost, you pay 80, I will pay 20, then only 80 will be taxable. To the extent, in all cases, to the extent the employee is paying back or you can recover from the employee, that will not be taxable perquisite. Okay. Next, what if travel, tour or accommodation facility is maintained by the employer? I suppose run a hotel also, and you have taken a holiday, you went on a holiday, you stayed in the hotel which I maintain, employer's hotel. Okay, so you stayed in an in a property which employer maintains. Then for specific employees only, the taxable value is the market value at which I would have given it to the public. So if I maintain a hotel and if I give to any layman, I would have charged 10,000 rupees per room night. Okay, and I have given this benefit to specific employees that you can go and stay in my property. Then what should be the perquisite value? The same value which I would have charged from other people. So I told you, you go and stay in my property free of cost. But from other people, I charge 10,000 rupees per room night. So the benefit in your hands is actually 10,000 minus 0, which is 10,000. Okay. So in case a facility of touring or travel or accommodation is maintained by the employer and he is allowing it to the employee for free or at a reduced cost, then whatever excess of market value of that facility is to what you have recovered from the employee, that is taxable perquisite. Okay, when you do sums, you will understand better. Right now, just try to understand the concept that this is how it is calculated. Okay. Third, if company spends for family accompanying employee on official tour. So suppose employee has gone on official tour, okay, and company is spending on him, then it is not taxable perquisite, because for something to be perquisite, it has to be a benefit in personal capacity. If I'm doing something in official course and you are spending it, it is your duty to spend. You are not doing me any favor. So it cannot be my perquisite. Okay. So I went on official duty. You paid my expenses is completely official expense. It is not personal expense. It is not perquisite. But when I went on official duty, you told me that, okay, please, your child is very small. You take your child along and you take a family member to take care of the child. Okay. I'm a working mother. My company told me that you go on official trip, but you can take your child and one family member along with you. Okay. Now my trip is, I am an employee. I've gone an official course. My trip is not perquisite. But if my employer spends for my family member also accompanying me on my official trip, then that is a benefit they have given me. Otherwise, I would have had to buy the ticket of my family member. Na? So that is a benefit they have given. That is perquisite. Now, what is the value? Whatever they have spent on my family member, ticket, stay, lodging, expense, whatever amount they spent on my family member, that is a benefit in my hands, which otherwise I would have had to spend. Okay, that's it. Next, if official tour is extended as vacation. So I went on official tour to Mumbai. Okay, now to the extent I was on official duty, and to the extent I was staying over there because I was also performing official duties, it is not my perquisite. But I said that I went from Tuesday to Friday on official duty. I told my employer I want to return back on Sunday. 2 days I will spend in personal capacity. I want to, do a little bit of day city tour also. I will enjoy my holiday and then I will come back. So I went on official tour, but I extended it as vacation. Okay. So to the extent it was official, that cannot be my perquisite. But when in the extended period, I was enjoying benefits given by my employer, then that is benefit given to me for personal use. That should be perquisite. Okay. That should be perquisite for everybody in under both regimes. And how much is the value of that perquisite? Whatever amount they had to spend during my extended period. So the amount they were spending while I was on official duty, that is not perquisite. The amount they spent while I was on the extended period of Saturday, Sunday, that is perquisite. Okay. So this is how basically they are very, very logical. Ma'am, do we have to remember so much? It is so logical. It is your gut instinct will tell you that please try to find out what benefits actually accrued to the employee, what amount he actually, now they are based on opportunity cost. That if employer had not made good or given that facility or benefit to the employee would have had to incur it from his own pocket. So his savings or his benefit is actually what he did not have to incur because employer spent on his behalf. Okay. So opportunity cost, what he did not have to spend, is actually the benefit that he got. If you understand it from this logic, most of the perquisites you will be able to value correctly. There are some perquisites which have a very defined logic. Please do A plus B plus C. You need to remember them. Okay, that your gut will not be able to prompt. But these things are based on common logic of opportunity cost. Benefit in your hand is what you would have had to spend if your employer had not given it to you. Okay, market value, generally. The amount that employer had to spend. Okay, that is generally the perquisite value. Because if he had not spent, then you would have been spending. Right? Okay. Then free or concessional food and non-alcoholic beverages. This is another point of taxable perquisite. So see, here there is a limit. I'm just showing the full slide now. If the employer gives you food and non-alcoholic beverages, then it can be taxable perquisite, except a few cases. Like if he gives you food and non-alcoholic beverages, means tea, coffee. If he gives you those things during working hours, okay. आजकल ऑफिसेस में वेंडिंग मशीन लगी होती है, आपको जितना चाय कॉफी पीना है, nobody is tracking, na? You can go and have it. Or even otherwise, you during working hours, your employer is giving you 2 cups of tea. Fine, it's okay. If it is during working hours, food and beverages are being given to you, It is not a benefit that will account that आपके खाते में लिख लेंगे कि भाई आपने 2 कप चाय पी है, इसका कॉस्ट आपको चार्ज करेंगे टैक्सेबल सैलरी बना के. ऐसा नहीं होता. That is not taxable salary. Okay. During working hours, these are gratuitously given. Okay. So this is not taxable salary. या फिर बहुत जगह होते हैं सोडेक्सो टाइप के कूपन्स दे देते हैं कि आप जाके उससे खाओ जो खाए. तो अगर 50 रुपीज पर मील तक की वैल्यू हो तब तक तो कुछ नहीं चार्ज होता. Anything beyond that is taxable perquisite. Basically, law has said 50 rupees per meal that employer wants to make any expense, then he can make. Okay, and only one meal in one day. So 50 rupees per day, you can imagine. अगर उतना तक खाना देना है तो फिर ठीक है, it's not taxable. Beyond that, it's a taxable benefit. Okay, that is a defined limit of 50 rupees. All right, but for non-alcoholic beverages or all of that, whatever you are getting during working hours, then that is not taxable. Okay. Achha. Then gift or voucher. If you get a gift from your employer, or if you get an Amazon voucher from your employer, that go and spend the way you want, then that is a taxable purpose. Then the value of such gift is actually a benefit in your hands. Now, whether the benefit is actually taxable or not, for that law has given a limit. They said that gift is exempt if the value does not exceed 5,000 in the aggregate. मतलब एक साल में 4 बार गिफ्ट दे दिया, एक बार 4,000, एक बार 2,000, एक बार 3,000. आपने बोला मैम 5,000 के तो नीचे ही है ना सब, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? एग्रीगेट में देखेंगे, 4, 2, 3 सबको मिला के देखेंगे. If it is crossing 5,000 in a year, okay, then it is taxable. अब इधर आप clearly समझ लो, there are two views. The way the law is worded, there are two views possible. Somebody can say that only the amount in excess of 5,000 should be taxable gift. And somebody may say that the total amount is taxable if the value is more than 5,000. Okay. Both the views are correct because there is an ambiguity in the language of the law. So what will you do? Generally, your institute sums have this treatment that entire amount is, shown as taxable. So if the value of the gift is up to 5,000, nothing gets into the computation. It is tax free for all. But if the value of the gift in aggregate during a year exceeds 5,000, then entire amount of gift is taxable. Okay. I'm just telling you in a few solutions you may feel that only excess लिया गया है, तो वो भी possible है. But आपके मतलब you should stick to one view only. Why will you think of too many things? So for you should say the entire amount we have offered to tax. Okay. All right. Reimbursement of credit card expense. आपको बहुत बार corporate credit card देते हैं, ठीक है? Reimbursement of credit card expense. देखो, अगर credit card official खर्चे के लिए दिया, they have given you a corporate credit card and they told you cannot make personal expense. You only use this when I send you to places, when I make you do expenditure in the course of official duty, you swipe this card, you make the expenses, and then we will pay directly to the credit card company. Okay, and that is official expense. That is not taxable. But if it is my credit card and my personal spending, and or even corporate credit card, but I'm using for personal purpose, and then my employer is saying that okay, take this back, then my primary obligation to pay was mine. It is my personal expense. Now the employer is paying a part of my personal expense also. That is benefit. That is taxable perquisite. And how much is the value? To the extent the amount the employer is bearing my cost. To the extent I don't have to pay out of my pocket where I was supposed to pay. That is the benefit in my hands. Okay. These are examples of cash perquisites. Actually, तो ये cash में दिया employer ने, लेकिन the essence lies in the obligation. Primary obligation to pay was mine, but employer said he will make it good, and therefore it is a benefit in my hand. Okay. Next, club expenditure. Offices में आजकल जिम में लगे रहते हैं, ठीक है, या क्लब्स हैं, क्लब मेंबरशिप देते हैं, ये वो करते हैं. अगर पूरा का पूरा ऑफिशियल पर्पस के लिए हो रहा है तो या एक जिम लगा दिया जिसको यूज करना है करो. when there is no tangible benefit to one employee, या फिर when it is an official expenditure, it is being used in official course of duty, then it is not perquisite. But if you allow to use it for personal purpose, okay, then it is perquisite, and the value of that is the cost to the employer, whatever they had to pay. Okay. Now, in corporate club membership, क्या होता है कि for what is corporate club membership? To very senior people in the organization, very senior employees, companies say कि भाई networking बहुत जरूरी है. आजकल तो स्मार्ट वर्किंग और नेटवर्किंग ज्यादा जरूरी है हार्ड वर्किंग से. So I have to give you a platform where you get to access, very high-end customers and other high-end business suppliers, etc. So you have to go to these kind of clubs where those kind of people also come. Okay. Therefore, I will give you a membership. It is in my own interest that you interact with such people so that you bring more business for the company. ठीक है. इसलिए एम्प्लॉयर ने बोला मैंने आपको क्लब मेंबरशिप दिया, आप जाके उधर बैठो और इतने लोगों से मिलो और नेटवर्किंग करो, हमारे लिए और बिजनेस बनाओ. ठीक है. अब आपने तो आपने क्लब मेंबरशिप ली. There are two types of payment which the employer has to make to the corporate clubs. One is an initial fee कि भाई XYZ Limited will send its employees, some of its employees, to your club. Okay, you please allow me an access to send them as and when I want. Yeah, and वो भी तभी तक till they are employed with me. तो आज मिस्टर एक्स आएगा, कल मिस्टर एक्स मेरी एम्प्लॉयमेंट छोड़ देगा, फिर मिस्टर वाई आएगा. ये रोलिंग सब्सक्रिप्शन आप मेरे को अलाउ करते रहना. ये आपका और XYZ लिमिटेड का एक एसोसिएशन है बिटवीन द क्लब एंड द XYZ लिमिटेड कि भाई दिस इज माय इनिशियल फीस टू यू सो दैट यू अलाउ माय मेंबर्स टू come to your club as and when I send them. This is the initial fees that they are paying. अब क्या ये किसी भी एम्प्लॉय को इंडिविजुअली ट्रेसेबल है? इट मे हैव सो हैपेंड कि ये तो अप्रैल में ही पे कर दिया कंपनी ने क्लब को और एम्प्लॉय ने जून में ज्वाइन किया. उस समय तो उसको पता भी नहीं था कि उसको ऐसा कुछ मेंबरशिप मिलेगा, ना एम्प्लॉयर को पता था कि कोई आदमी जून में ज्वाइन करने वाला है. ठीक है, फिर भी उसने मेंबरशिप लेके रखा है. तो दिस इनिशियल फीस व्हिच इज पेड बाय द एम्प्लॉयर टू अ क्लब for allowing its employees access to the club in general without any tangible benefit to any one employee. This is not taxable perquisite in the hand of any employee. Okay, but if we give annual or periodical subscription fee, please allow Mr. X to be a member of your club. For him, I am paying an annual fees of this much, and I will pay to you as long as he remains an employee with me. वो मिस्टर एक्स को टेंजिबल बेनिफिट है, मिस्टर एक्स और उनकी फैमिली को अलाउ करता हुआ स्पेशल बेनिफिट है. Okay, and I'm assuming he is also using for personal recreation and use of club facilities. It is not completely official. That's why the question of perquisite. Okay, in that case, the benefit to the employee or Mr. X is actually the cost to the employer. That is the annual or periodical subscription fee that he may have to pay for the employee. ठीक है. Initial fee which is given just that so that the employer is having an association continued with the club, that is not a tangible benefit for anybody and that is not perquisite for any employee's hands. But individual subscription for enrolling individual employees, that is very much tangible, relatable and personally enjoyable, and therefore it is taxable perquisite in the hands of employee under both regimes. Okay. All right. फिर मूवेबल एसेट्स. मूवेबल एसेट्स जैसे आप यहाँ पे आप ऑफिस में फर्नीचर यूज कर रहे थे, एम्प्लॉयर ने बोला आप इसको घर ले जाओ. ठीक है, या आपको हम लैपटॉप दे रहे हैं, आप कभी कभी घर के लिए काम पे भी यूज कर सकते हैं. सो इफ एसेट्स ऑफ द कंपनी आर बीइंग गिवन टू द एम्प्लॉय फॉर यूज और ऑन ट्रांसफर, ओके, फॉर पर्सनल यूज, देन it can be taxable perquisite. कैसे क्या वैल्यू होगा we will discuss later. Okay, और इन सब चीजों के अलावा भी कोई और बेनिफिट हो तो फिर भाई जेनरिक प्रिंसिपल कि जो भी एम्प्लॉयर को मार्केट वैल्यू खर्चा करना पड़ता, ओके, माइनस जो एम्प्लॉय से मिल गया वापस, उतना टैक्सेबल होना चाहिए बेनिफिट इन द हैंड्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयर। आर्म्स लेंथ क्या होता है? यू सी अ वर्ड कॉल्ड आर्म्स लेंथ हियर। आर्म्स लेंथ क्या होता है? एनीबॉडी नोज व्हाट आर्म्स लेंथ इज? बोलेंगे मैम एक हाथ का लेंथ। अभी तक तो हमने खाली 2.5 किलो का हाथ वेट ऑफ द आर्म समझा था, अभी लेंथ ऑफ द आर्म को तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं। आर्म्स लेंथ क्या होता है? मार्केट प्राइस। आर्म्स लेंथ मींस मार्केट वैल्यू, मतलब एक हाथ की दूरी, मतलब fair value transaction which is not influenced by any discretionary, personal, partial factors. Okay, arm's length means fair value. Ma'am, how will officer come to know of all these things? देखो, जो चीजें आपके बैंक में आती है वो तो बैंक स्टेटमेंट में आती है, वो तो आपको दिखाना ही पड़ेगा। जो चीजें आपके बैंक में नहीं आती है और आपको नॉन टेंजिबल बेनिफिट्स मिलते हैं, मतलब टेंजिबल बेनिफिट्स मिलते हैं, नॉन मॉनेटरी बेनिफिट्स मिलते हैं, तो वैसे तो वो कहीं रिकॉर्ड नहीं हो रहा है ना, बैंक में तो नहीं आ रहा। लेकिन आपका एम्प्लॉयर को तो पता है ना, आपके एम्प्लॉयर को पता है जब वो आपको दे रहे हैं ये सब चीज, वो तो टीडीएस काट के देंगे ना। सैलरीड केस में टैक्स अवॉइडेंस इज नेक्स्ट टू इम्पॉसिबल because your employer has a complete record of the benefits he is giving you, at least if they are authorized. वो जो unauthorized use वाला एग्जाम्पल था वो तो वैसे भी सैलरी नहीं होता, हमने तो पढ़ा ना। ऑथोराइज्ड बेनिफिट्स का पूरा रिकॉर्ड एम्प्लॉयर के पास है, एम्प्लॉयर टीडीएस काट के ही देगा, डोंट वरी। इनकम टैक्स ऑफिसर को कुछ समझने समझाने की जरूरत नहीं है, ठीक है। Form 16, yes, those people who are already perhaps working on, they know of it. Form 16 is a summary of what the employer is giving to the employee, and certificate of tax deduction ki bhai these we have given you x plus y plus z, we have deducted tax of a and you are getting the balance in your hand. So वो उससे इनकम टैक्स ऑफिसर को सब पता चल जाता है कि एम्प्लॉयर ने एम्प्लॉय को क्या दिया। ओके, चलो, ओके, ठीक है ना। इतना सब क्या मैम 1 2 3 4 ये लिस्ट याद रखना है क्या? नहीं, ये लिस्ट आपको याद नहीं रखना है। इसका इस तरह का कोई भी आइटम आप सब में देखेंगे तो उसका ट्रीटमेंट कैसे करेंगे ये याद रखना है, ठीक है। ऑल द प्लीज गिव मी अ लिस्ट ऑफ परक्विजिट्स व्हिच इज टैक्सेबल फॉर ऑल एम्प्लॉइज, ऐसा क्वेश्चन नहीं आता जनरली, तो आपको वो लिस्ट याद नहीं रखनी है। अगर वैसा आइटम एग्जाम में दिखे तो उसका करना क्या है, वो ट्रीटमेंट याद रखना है। मैम, could I refer to all PDFs as provided by you for notes making? Generally I am making a cumulative PDF, मतलब आप क्लास 3 अच्छा, आप अगर सारे PDFs देखेंगे तो आप देख सकते हैं एक एक करके अभी as and when we are doing classes. At the end of the classes, at the end of 6 classes, I will give you consolidated PDF, class 1 to 6, everything in one place. If you want to print also ना, आप वो वाला print करना, ठीक है, तो आपके पास सब कुछ एक जगह आएगा, क्योंकि सारे क्लासेस होने के बाद तो क्लास 1 में क्या किया था और 3 में क्या किया था डजंट मैटर, ओवरऑल क्या किया था ये मैटर करता है। उस समय आप 1 to 6 का पूरा जिस्ट आप डाउनलोड करेंगे और उसको आप पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है। प्लीज गिव 2 minute ब्रेक फॉर रिफ्रेश। अरे भाई ब्रेक तो दिया था ना, अभी और ब्रेक नहीं प्लीज, सॉरी। चलो, ठीक है, लेट्स नाउ लुक एट द नेक्स्ट कैटेगरी, लिस्ट ऑफ टैक्स फ्री परक्विजिट्स फॉर ऑल। टैक्स फ्री परक्विजिट्स फॉर, अच्छा एक चीज मैंने सॉरी मैंने लास्ट क्लास स्लाइड में आपको ना एक चीज नहीं बताई, बहुत कंपनीज ना मोबाइल फोन एक्सपेंस वापस रिवर्स कर देती है। आप अपना बिल देते हैं, पोस्टपेड बिल, कि भाई मैंने तो ये खर्चा किया इस महीने में, वो लोग वापस दे देते हैं, पर आप उस मोबाइल फोन को ऑफिशियल और पर्सनल हर तरह का यूज के लिए हर तरह की कॉल करते हैं अपने फोन से, राइट, तो उसका क्या करना है? अगर कंप्लीटली ऑफिशियल होती तो हम लोग बात ही नहीं कर रहे होते, बिकॉज completely official expenses are not benefit in the hands of employee, they are not personal benefits at all, so they are not perquisite. But anything which is at least partially personal, there is a question of personal benefit, and there is a question of taxable perquisite. Okay, so अगर मोबाइल फोन का खर्चा कंपनी ने वापस दे दिया, जो फोन पर्सनल कॉल्स करने के लिए भी यूज किए जाते हैं, तो वो फोन तो ओटीटी में मूवीज देखने के लिए भी यूज किए जाते हैं, तब फिर क्या होगा? Now only for this they have said this is exempt. Even if you use it for personal purpose, if the employer gives a reimbursement of mobile phone, it is exempt. Mobile phone expense, हाँ, फोन नहीं दिया आपको, आपको मोबाइल फोन का खर्चा reimburse किया, ठीक है? Reimbursement of mobile phone expenses exempt. Reimbursement of mobile phone expenses exempt. ठीक है? Alright, चलो यही छूट गया था इस स्लाइड में. चलो अभी नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में जाते हैं. टैक्स फ्री परक्विजिट्स फॉर ऑल. ये लिस्ट वो है जो सबके लिए एग्जेम्प्ट है, जो किसी के लिए भी टैक्सेबल नहीं है. ये लिस्ट वो है जो सबके लिए एग्जेम्प्ट है, किसी के लिए टैक्सेबल नहीं. नंबर 1, टेलीफोन प्रोवाइडेड बाय एम्प्लॉयर टू एम्प्लॉई एट हिज रेसिडेंस. टेलीफोन, मोबाइल फोन रीइंबर्समेंट, ये इस तरह का, मतलब पर्सनल भी यूज करो ना तो भी टैक्सेबल नहीं होता, ठीक है? ट्रांसपोर्ट फैसिलिटी प्रोवाइडेड बाय एयरलाइन और रेलवेज टू इट्स एम्प्लॉइज. अगर इंडिगो एयरलाइंस अपने एम्प्लॉय को फ्लाइट में कहीं जाने भेजती है पर्सनल ट्रिप में, अगर एक एयरलाइन या एक रेलवे कंपनी अपने एम्प्लॉइज को पर्सनल ट्रिप पे अपने फैसिलिटी यूज करने दे देते हैं, देन इट इज नॉट टैक्सेबल. ओके, वन वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट इट इज कि एक एयरलाइन और रेलवेज कंपनी के लिए एक सीट अपने एम्प्लॉय को दे देना कोई इंक्रीमेंटल कॉस्ट शायद क्रिएट ही नहीं करे. यू में से कि मैम वो सीट उनको नहीं देता तो किसी और को देते हैं और उससे पैसा मिलता, बट लॉ मेकर्स हैव सेड कि अगर एक एयरलाइन और एक रेलवे कंपनी अपनी एम्प्लॉय को ट्रांसपोर्ट फैसिलिटी फ्री में या डिस्काउंट में देती है, इट इज नॉट अ टैक्सेबल परक्विजिट. ओके, हिंदी में बता दो. हिंदी में तो मैक्सिमम डिस्कशन इज इन हिंदी. In fact, my question is to people, all students in general. If you do not follow Hindi language, then please tell me. At a lot of places, I am referring to Hindi. Anyone using landline at residence? People may be using BSNL का जो bill आता है with address proof. So law has provided this. Now with time, certain technology becomes obsolete, certain uses, practices, customs change. So things become obsolete, but law still has that provision. Okay. अच्छा, next. Perquisites allowed by government to Indian citizen for entering service outside India. ये section 10(7) तो हमने बहुत पहले ही कर लिया था कि salary performed service rendered by Indian citizen employed with government of India while he is working outside India is taxable because it is deemed to accrue or arise in India, but allowances and perquisite given to that person are exempt. है ना, वो तो हमने पहले ही कर लिया था. This is exempt under section 10(7). Okay, next. Employers contribution to staff group insurance scheme, ये भी हमने पहले कर लिया. पर्सनल इंश्योरेंस हो तो भले टैक्सेबल होगा, लेकिन ग्रुप इंश्योरेंस हो तो टैंजिबल बेनिफिट है ही नहीं, मिलेगा भी कि नहीं कोई बेनिफिट इज नॉट इन योर हैंड्स, तो फिर भाई वो ग्रुप इंश्योरेंस नहीं होता. आप बहुत इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज के एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स आजकल देखते होंगे जहां वो बोल रहे हैं कि भाई आपके पास तो कॉर्पोरेट इंश्योरेंस है, बोल के उन्होंने पर्सनल पॉलिसी नहीं ली, लेकिन बाद में वो कॉर्पोरेट इंश्योरेंस या तो रही नहीं या तो इनफ नहीं थी, तो पर्सनल लेनी चाहिए थी. दैट इज हाउ दे आर ट्राइंग टू एडवोकेट. ना, व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज कि कॉर्पोरेट इंश्योरेंस है, बहुत अच्छी बात है, लेकिन बहुत रिलायबल नहीं है और आपके कंट्रोल में नहीं है, इन द सेंस कि कंडीशनल है, तो हो भी सकता है नहीं भी हो सकता है, इसलिए इतना आपके कंट्रोल में नहीं है और इसलिए वो पर्सनल बेनिफिट नहीं है, टैक्सेबल बेनिफिट नहीं है. ठीक है, चलो उसके बाद एनुअल प्रीमियम पेड बाय एम्प्लॉयर ऑन पर्सनल एक्सीडेंट पॉलिसी. एक्सीडेंट पॉलिसी को स्पेसिफिकली लॉ में एग्जेम्प्ट किया गया कि इसके लिए प्रीमियम पे अगर करते हैं ऑन द लाइफ ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय तो वो एग्जेम्प्ट है. ओके, रिफ्रेशमेंट गिवन ड्यूरिंग वर्किंग आवर्स, ये तो हमने पढ़ा ही है. फूड एंड नॉन अल्कोहलिक बेवरेजेस ड्यूरिंग वर्किंग आवर्स तो एग्जेम्प्ट ही है. ठीक है, सब्सिडाइज लंच, ये भी हमने पढ़ा है. 50 रुपए तक का मील टैक्स एग्जेम्प्ट है, लेकिन 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 मार्केट टिक कर दो भाई, ऑप्शनल रेजिम ओनली. डिफॉल्ट रेजिम में वो 50 रुपए का सब्सिडी भी नहीं बर्दाश्त मतलब उसमें सब कुछ टैक्सेबल होगा, ठीक है। ऑप्शनल रेजिम में अगर 50 रुपए तक का मील मिलता है तो वो एग्जेम्प्ट है, ओके। ये जब आप चीट शीट पढ़ेंगे ना, जहाँ पे ऑप्शनल रेजिम और डिफॉल्ट रेजिम को कंपेयर किया है मैंने, वहाँ ये आइटम भी है। तो अगर आप यहाँ से इतना नहीं भी मान पाए, मतलब अगर आप इतना पर स्लाइड बेसिस पे नहीं रिमेम्बर कर पाए कि भाई ऑप्शनल में क्या है, डिफॉल्ट में क्या है, लास्ट में जाके सब कंफ्यूज हो रहे हैं, तो जस्ट वो चीट शीट रेफर करने से यू विल बी क्लियर कि दीज आर द डिफरेंसेस बिटवीन दीज टू रेजिम्स, ठीक है ना। ओके, देन recreational facilities, club facilities to employees in general. Like we said, अगर corporate club facility या जिम, ऑफिस का जिम जो सबके लिए अवेलेबल है, वो परक्विजिट नहीं है, ठीक है। उसके बाद अमाउंट स्पेंट ऑन ट्रेनिंग ऑफ एम्प्लॉइज विद बोर्डिंग लॉजिंग। और कंपनीज में होता है कि इंडक्शन ट्रेनिंग होती है, जैसे ही आप ज्वाइन करते हैं वैसे ही वो आपको पढ़ाने लग जाते हैं, ठीक है। कुछ कुछ चीजें पढ़ाते हैं जो भी करते हैं। तो अगर आपने अपना कोई ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम दिया है एम्प्लॉय को, और आप ही उनको ले जाके कहीं पे, सपोज एक ऑफ कैंप, मतलब ऑफ द प्लेस ऑफ पोस्टिंग ट्रेनिंग है, आपको कोई और सिटी में जाके वो ट्रेनिंग लेनी है, पर कंपनी आपसे आपको बोल रही है वो ट्रेनिंग करो भाई, मेरे यहाँ पे रहना है तो ये सब सीखना होगा। तो कंपनी इज सेंडिंग यू ऑन अ ट्रेनिंग and then bearing your lodging and footing and staying expenses, then it is not a taxable perquisite. First of all, it is not a personal benefit. You may have learned something from that training, okay, it is a benefit, but it was not for personal use. Employer sent you for an official purpose only, okay. All right, next, contribution to funds up to prescribed limit, वो हम लोग बाद में करेंगे, क्योंकि कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस आप देखेंगे कि भाई ए नंबर लिस्ट में भी था टैक्सेबल फॉर ऑल, बी नंबर लिस्ट में भी है टैक्स फ्री फॉर ऑल। भाई दोनों टाइप के कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन होते हैं। जब हम वो पर्टिकुलर पार्ट पढ़ेंगे फंड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन, उस समय हम समझेंगे हाउ मच इज टैक्सेबल, हाउ मच इज एग्जेम्प्ट, ओके। देयर आर बोथ थिंग्स पॉसिबल, ओके। लीव ट्रैवल कंसेशन, लीव ट्रैवल कंसेशन जो आपको लीव मतलब आप लीव लेके जब हॉलिडे पे जाते हैं उसके लिए व्हाट व्हेन दे मेक गुड, तो वो लीव ट्रैवल कंसेशन के लिए देयर आर सम लिमिट्स गिवन इन द लॉ, ओके। एंड दैट इज आल्सो अवेलेबल अंडर ऑप्शनल रेजिम ओनली, it is available under optional regime only, that too subject to limits, okay, so not relevant for default regime। and जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट हाई कोर्ट जजेस को जो मिलने वाला है ना, वो ऑप्शनल रेजिम में ही वो भी एग्जेम्प्ट है, इट इज नॉट एग्जेम्प्ट अंडर डिफॉल्ट रेजिम, बट उनको बिना कंडीशन के एग्जेम्पशन है। So leave travel concessions exemption, okay, has some criteria or some limits. Limits are applicable to other employees. No limits are applicable to Supreme Court, High Court judges. But for both of them, they get this benefit only under optional regime. And no benefit is available to no employee, no category of employee under default regime for leave travel concession. ठीक है ना? Okay. Medical facility. कुछ कुछ मेडिकल फैसिलिटी सबके लिए टैक्स फ्री है, बिकॉज हेल्थ इज अ प्राइमरी सर्विस, हाँ, इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सर्विस। तो ऑन द ग्राउंड्स ऑफ इक्विटी एंड एम्पैथी, income tax has given some exemption to certain types of medical benefits, okay, certain types are taxable also, okay। उसके बाद rent free official residence and conveyance to supreme court high court judges under optional regime, this also we did earlier कि बाकी लोग को तो मिले तो taxable for all, पर सुप्रीम कोर्ट हाई कोर्ट जजेस को मिले तो एग्जेम्प्ट अंडर ऑप्शनल रेजिम ओनली, ओके। चलो, क्या ये लिस्ट याद रखना है? मतलब ऐसे तो नहीं आपको पूछेगा कि प्लीज लिस्ट डाउन ऑल द टैक्स फ्री परक्विजिट्स 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, बट हाँ, ये अगर आप इनमें से कोई भी आइटम एग्जाम में देखेंगे तो यू नीड टू अप्लाई योर माइंड कि भाई ये टैक्सेबल है कि टैक्स फ्री है। जितना पॉसिबल हो ट्राई टू रिमेम्बर द एसेंस, ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द लॉजिक, it will help you to solve this out, because you cannot remember the long lists, okay, it will not, आज याद कर भी लो तो भी जब तक आप सारे हेड्स ऑफ इनकम पढ़ लेंगे ना और एग्जाम तक पहुंचेंगे तो सब कुछ याद रखना लिस्ट बाय लिस्ट एकदम भी पॉसिबल नहीं है, ठीक है। तो इसीलिए जितना लॉजिक आप समझेंगे, लॉजिक विल रिमेन विथ यू, एंड you know, mugging up things will may or may not remain with you, okay। all right, थर्ड कैटेगरी ऑफ परक्विजिट वो है जो कुछ एम्प्लॉइज के लिए टैक्सेबल है और कुछ एम्प्लॉइज के लिए नहीं। सो व्हाट वी हैव डन सो फार एसेंशियली इज If it is taxable, it is for all generally. If it is tax free, it is for all generally. Now we are doing that category where it is taxable for specified employees. Okay. तो लेकिन ना इसमें एक कैच है, इट हैज टू बी नॉन मॉनिटरी. दिस लिस्ट मतलब नॉर्मली अभी तक हमने जो जो लिस्ट पढ़े हैं, देयर वर अ फ्यू कैश बेनिफिट्स आल्सो, reimbursements in cash form by the employer, for example. Okay, so there were some cash perquisites also in the earlier two lists of A and B that we have studied. But when we are studying C, that is the list which is taxable for specified employees only, then they have to be essentially non-monetary, non-cash. Okay, ये लिस्ट सिर्फ स्पेसिफिक बेनिफिट्स है. ये वाली लिस्ट तो 1 2 3 4 5 आप याद कर लो, बिकॉज इट इज अ कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव लिस्ट. इसमें और कुछ नहीं है. इट इज एन एग्जॉस्टिव लिस्ट. सो ए का लिस्ट याद रखना है कि नहीं? नॉट नेसेसरीली, इट्स एन इंक्लूसिव लिस्ट. बी का लिस्ट याद रखना है कि नहीं? नॉट लाइक दैट, इट्स अ लॉन्ग लिस्ट. लेकिन सी का लिस्ट याद रखो क्योंकि वो एग्जॉस्टिव भी है और छोटा भी है. ओके, और मोर इम्पोर्टेंटली आप क्यों याद रखो? क्योंकि इसमें स्पेसिफाइड और अदर एम्प्लॉयज के लिए ट्रीटमेंट ही अलग हो जाएगा. अगर आप नहीं याद रखेंगे तो आप कैसे उसको अप्लाई कर पाएंगे? ओके, और वो जो ट्रीटमेंट अलग हो रहा है ना, उसका कोई लॉजिक नहीं है जो आपको हेल्प कर पाएगा. एसेंशियली आप ये 1 2 3 4 5 रिमेंबर ही करना होगा कि कुछ के लिए तो टैक्सेबल है, फिर बाकियों के लिए नहीं है. ठीक है, ओके. वो क्या है? प्रोविजन ऑफ स्वीपर, गार्डनर, वॉचमैन, पर्सनल अटेंडेंट. अगर हमने अभी तक हमने किया था कुछ डोमेस्टिक सर्वेंट की सैलरी, डू यू रिमेम्बर? अरे हमने तो पार्ट नंबर ए में, लिस्ट नंबर ए में डोमेस्टिक सर्वेंट की सैलरी पढ़ी है. फिर ये क्या है? डू यू रिमेम्बर? अगर आप कोई प्रोफेशनल कोर्स खुद से करना चाहते हैं, वैसा कोई ट्रेनिंग है जो आप करना चाहते हैं और एम्प्लॉयर इज मेकिंग गुड, वो टैक्सेबल है. जो हमने एग्जेम्प्ट कराया था वो था कि एम्प्लॉयर ने आपको ट्रेनिंग में भेजा है, जो वो कराना चाहते हैं, आप नहीं करना चाहते. अच्छा मैम, इट्स 8 PM. हाँ, इट्स ओके. Okay, so yes, we have studied domestic servant salary. Domestic servant salary का लेकिन the way we studied was reimbursement of domestic servant salary. मतलब primary obligation was on the employee, that employee has hired a domestic servant, employee should pay to the domestic servant, but employer said that no, okay, I will also pay, I will make that good. Okay, then that was reimbursement. So reimbursement of an obligation which was primarily of the employee. Moreover, it was a cash benefit. यहाँ पे तो सारा लिस्ट नॉन कैश है ना. यहाँ पे आपको रीइंबर्समेंट देने की जगह वो आपको एक अटेंडेंट ही दे रहे हैं. मतलब उनके पेरोल में है वो अटेंडेंट, और आपको बोल रहे हैं आप आराम से रहो, बस आपका काम हो जाएगा. आपको नहीं देखना कि आपको एक्स देंगे, आपको आपके घर पे एक्स आएगा या वाई आएगी आपका काम करने के लिए, वो हम भेजेंगे, आप बस काम करा देंगे. That means employer has hired that personal attendant to come and provide services to your house. Okay, you have not had to hire, you don't have to pay anything to that person, and directly employer hires and pays to that person. Okay, ये जो होता है ना, ये उससे अलग है. There is a difference in taxability of reimbursement of servant salary and provision of a domestic servant by employer. Please write here, इसके पास में पॉइंट नंबर 1 के पास में, डिफरेंट फ्रॉम रीइंबर्समेंट ऑफ डोमेस्टिक सर्वेंट सैलरी. ठीक है, दिस इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम रीइंबर्समेंट ऑफ डोमेस्टिक सर्वेंट सैलरी. ऑलराइट, हाउ इज इट डिफरेंट? उस केस में तो वो कंप्लीटली टैक्सेबल होता सबके लिए, लेकिन इस केस में वो टैक्सेबल सिर्फ कुछ लोगों के लिए है. दिस एलीट क्लास इज कॉल्ड स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉइज. वो कौन होते हैं वी विल नो नाउ, वी विल नो इन सम टाइम, लेकिन ये सिर्फ उनके लिए टैक्सेबल है. मतलब ये सबके लिए नहीं है, मतलब ये जो स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉइज नहीं है उनके लिए टैक्सेबल नहीं है. दैट इज हाउ इट इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम रीइंबर्समेंट ऑफ सर्वेंट सैलरी. ओके, चलो नेक्स्ट. फैसिलिटी ऑफ यूज ऑफ गैस, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, वाटर, ये भी अगर कंपनी आपको दे रही है कि भाई गैस, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी ये सब हम ही आपको दे रहे हैं, आपके यूटिलिटी बिल्स को रीइंबर्स नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम आपको ये फैसिलिटी ही दे रहे हैं, ठीक है, दैट इज डिफरेंट, तो भी ये इस कैटेगरी में आता है। फ्री कंसेशनल टिकट्स अगर कंपनी आपको दे रही है, एक ट्रांसपोर्ट कंपनी, लेकिन नॉट बीइंग एयरलाइन और रेलवेज, क्योंकि एयरलाइन और रेलवेज तो अगर अपने एम्प्लॉय को अपना ट्रांसपोर्ट फैसिलिटी यूज करने देते हैं तो वो तो टैक्स फ्री परक्विजिट है, वो तो लिस्ट बी में आया था। अदर देन एयरलाइन और रेलवेज अगर कोई ट्रांसपोर्ट कंपनी अपने एम्प्लॉय को ट्रांसपोर्ट फैसिलिटी यूज करने देती है तो वो टैक्स कैटेगरी सी है, मतलब टैक्सेबल फॉर सम एम्प्लॉयज ओनली। उसके बाद यूज ऑफ मोटर कार, ये भी फॉर सम एम्प्लॉयज ओनली। उसके बाद फ्री और कंसेशनल एजुकेशनल फैसिलिटी, ये भी फॉर सम एम्प्लॉय ओनली। तो एजुकेशन, मोटर कार, टिकट्स या ट्रांसपोर्ट, गैस या इलेक्ट्रिसिटी या वाटर, और स्वीपर या सर्वेंट, ठीक है। ठीक है, ये इनका ना मैं आपको एक एक्रोनिम दे दूंगी अगले क्लास में, मतलब हाउ यू रिमेंबर दीज 5 पॉइंट्स, जैसे हमने जीपीएलआरबी बनाया था ना, वैसे इसका भी मैं बना के आपको दे दूंगी। So you will be able to easily remember these 5 points together. Okay? तो ये सब फैसिलिटीज प्रोवाइड अगर होती है तो ये सिर्फ कुछ एम्प्लॉयज के हाथ में टैक्सेबल होती है, बट क्या वैल्यू पे टैक्स होगी। फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर कोई स्वीपर का हम लोग एकदम कॉमन सेंस अप्लाई करना, अगर आप यहाँ पे मैं ये स्क्रीन से अगर ये हटा भी दूं ना, मतलब आंसर्स हटा भी दूं, तो भी यू शुड बी एबल टू आंसर मी, ठीक है, एकदम कॉमन सेंस। सबसे पहले प्रोविजन ऑफ स्वीपर, गार्डनर, वॉचमैन और पर्सनल अटेंडेंट, ये कितना परक्विजिट होना चाहिए, वही जो एम्प्लॉयर ने खर्चा किया, वही जो एम्प्लॉयर ने उस अटेंडेंट को दिया होगा, वही बेनिफिट है इन द हैंड्स ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय। So salary payable by the employer to such person is actually the benefit in the hands of the employee. अगर गैस, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, पानी ये सब एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय को देता है, तो अगर वो दो दो चीजें हो सकती है कि वो जो कंपनी है वो गैस बनाती है शायद, ठीक है, दीज थिंग्स आर, या इलेक्ट्रिसिटी वो ही डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करती है, तो अगर ये चीजें उनका इन हाउस है, इन हाउस बेनिफिट्स आपको दे रहे हैं, तो कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन पर यूनिट निकाल के आपसे आपके ऊपर बेनिफिट चार्ज किया जाएगा। पर अगर वो खुद ये सब काम नहीं करते हैं, दे आर इनटू सम अदर बिजनेस एंड दे आल्सो बाय इलेक्ट्रिसिटी और दे बाय गैस एंड देन प्रोवाइड टू यू, तो जितना वो पे करते हैं वही आपका बेनिफिट है, कॉस्ट टू द एम्प्लॉयर, कॉस्ट ऑफ परचेज। ओके, अगर टिकट दे रहा है ट्रांसपोर्ट कंपनी फॉर पर्सनल यूज, तो उतना ही बेनिफिट आपके हाथ में जितना वो किसी और से लेते, मार्केट वैल्यू टू द पब्लिक, दैट इज द बेनिफिट इन योर हैंड। अगर मोटर कार आपको यूज करने दे रहे हैं तो इसका एक कैलकुलेटेड बेनिफिट है, देयर इज अ मैकेनिज्म ऑफ कैलकुलेटिंग, वो हम लोग बाद में करेंगे, ठीक है। और अगर आपको एजुकेशनल फैसिलिटी यूज करने दे रहा है तो इसमें भी एक कैलकुलेशन है, मतलब इसमें कुछ डिटेल्स है, वी विल डू दैट लेटर, ठीक है ना। ओके, तो नॉर्मली लेकिन क्या प्रिंसिपल है, अनलेस आप कोई स्पेसिफिक कंप्यूटेशन मैकेनिज्म पढ़ेंगे, नॉर्मल प्रिंसिपल इज जितना खर्चा एम्प्लॉयर ने किया वो ही एम्प्लॉय के हाथ में टैक्सेबल है, जितना खर्चा एम्प्लॉय ने किया वो ही एम्प्लॉय के हाथ में टैक्सेबल है, अदरवाइज एम्प्लॉय को खुद करना पड़ता। और अगर एम्प्लॉय ने कुछ अमाउंट वापस दे दिया है कि भाई इतना तो मेरे से ले लो वापस, तो फिर वो अमाउंट रिड्यूस हो जाएगा फ्रॉम टैक्सेबल परक्विजिट। ओके, नाउ हु इज द स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉय, ये प्रिविलेज्ड क्लास है कौन जिनको टैक्स देना पड़ेगा, these people first डायरेक्टर एम्प्लॉयज, अगर कंपनी का कोई एम्प्लॉय डायरेक्टर भी है, ठीक है, कंपनी का कोई एम्प्लॉय डायरेक्टर भी है, फुल टाइम हो, पार्ट टाइम हो, इंडिपेंडेंट हो, नॉन इंडिपेंडेंट हो, जो भी हो, डजंट मैटर, पर अगर वो डायरेक्टर भी है तो वैसे डायरेक्टर एम्प्लॉयज के लिए दे आर स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉयज। ओके, देखो गाड़ी किसको मिलती है, हर एम्प्लॉय को मिलती भी नहीं है ना, so you understand that these facilities will be given to an elite class only, it will not be given to everybody. Okay, accordingly it will help you to remember the definition of specified employee, किन लोगों को मिलेगी, भाई जो डायरेक्टर लोग हैं उनको मिलती होगी गाड़ी, ठीक है, और किसको मिलेगी, कोई बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट शेयर होल्डर हो जो उस कंपनी का 20% से ज्यादा शेयर होल्ड करता हो, उसको मिलती होगी गाड़ी, और किसको मिलती है, जिसकी सैलरी 50,000 से ज्यादा हो, तो भाई जिसकी सैलरी 50,000 से कम हो उसको गाड़ी मिलेगी भी कहाँ, है ना. सो स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉय इज डायरेक्टर एम्प्लॉय, सब्सटैंशियली इंटरेस्टेड एम्प्लॉय माने सिग्निफिकेंट शेयर होल्डर एम्प्लॉय, या फिर एम्प्लॉय whose salary exceeds 50,000. Okay, when we say salary exceed 50,000, this is excluding the non-monetary perks. Excluding non-monetary perks, अगर salary is more than 50,000, so that category of employee is also called a specified employee. Now, when they say shareholder more than 20%, then should you be beneficial owner or legal owner? So the law says you should be beneficial owner. अब beneficial owner और legal owner क्या होता है मैम? एक कॉन्सेप्ट करते हैं दूसरा आ जाता है बीच में, कॉन्सेप्ट खत्म ही नहीं होता है. देखो एग्जाम्पल के संग पढ़ना, नहीं तो आप नहीं समझ पाओगे. एक होता है लीगल ओनर, मतलब अगर एक शेयर होल्डिंग है तो किसके डीमैट अकाउंट में आ रही होगी, अगर सपोज डीमैटेरियलाइज्ड फॉर्म में होल्ड है तो वो हो गया उसका लीगल ओनर, जिसके पास उसका लीगल ओनरशिप या टाइटल रिकॉर्ड है. ओके, और एक हो गया बेनिफिशियल ओनर, मतलब जो भले डीमैट जिसके डीमैट में वो शेयर नहीं आ रहा हो, लेकिन एक अरेंजमेंट ऐसा है लीगल ओनर और बेनिफिशियल ओनर के बीच में कि बेनिफिट्स अल्टीमेटली सारे उसको पास हो जाएंगे. There is a person X who is not a registered shareholder of that share, but by virtue of some agreement, the shareholder passes on all the benefits arising from the shares to Mr. X. Dividend आया दे देते हैं, कुछ भी और आया दे देते हैं. अगर एक अरेंजमेंट ऐसा है कि बेनिफिट्स किसी और को ही जा रहे हैं तो वो बेनिफिशियल ओनर हो गया. ओके, दिस इज नॉट अ केस ऑफ एप्लीकेशन ऑफ इनकम, दिस इज अ केस ऑफ डाइवर्जन ऑफ इनकम बाय ओवरराइडिंग टाइटल, कि वो इनकम शेयर होल्डर रजिस्टर्ड होल्डर के पास आए उससे पहले ही बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ अ लीगल एग्रीमेंट वो उसको किसी और की तरफ डाइवर्ट कर देते और कोई और ओनर बन जाता है, तो दैट पर्सन इज बेनिफिशियल ओनर. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर एक HUF है, हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली है, आप जब पर्सन का डेफिनेशन पढ़ेंगे, टैक्स पेयर एसएससी का डेफिनेशन पढ़ेंगे इनकम टैक्स में, तो हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली इज आल्सो अ क्लास ऑफ टैक्स पेयर. ओके, तो उसका जो करता है जिसने जो फॉर्म किया है, सपोज वो रजिस्टर्ड शेयर होल्डर है और वो ही एम्प्लॉय है ब्राइट लिमिटेड का, एक कंपनी की वो एम्प्लॉय है और वो शेयर होल्डर है और वो 20% से ज्यादा शेयर होल्ड करता है उस कंपनी में. लेकिन जो भी उस शेयर को खरीदने का खर्चा किसने दिया, HUF ने. उस शेयर से मिलता हुआ डिविडेंड किसको मिलता है, HUF को. तो ऐसे केस में बेनिफिशियल ओनर कौन है, रजिस्टर्ड ओनर तो भले ही A होगा, A के डीमैट अकाउंट में वो शेयर दिखता होगा, लेकिन the benefit is actually going to the HUF and the HUF is only financing the cost of the share. HUF is also getting benefit out of the share. Therefore, it is a legal agreement. Okay, so then HUF becomes the beneficial owner. इससे होता क्या है कि Mr. X is, although he may have been a specified employee, लेकिन he is actually not the beneficial owner of more than 20% share in the company. So technically, he is not a specified employee for the purpose of taxable perquisite. Okay, he could have been because he is 20% registered shareholder. लेकिन he does not enjoy benefits. Therefore, he is not the beneficial owner of 20% shareholding, and he is not the beneficial owner. He is not a specified employee for taxable perquisite purpose. Now, what happens if he is not a specified employee? तो ये जो 5 टाइप का बेनिफिट्स है वो उसके हाथ में टैक्सेबल नहीं होंगे. सो व्हाट विल बी द अटेम्प्ट ऑफ द पर्सन कि भाई कैसे भी मैं ये लिस्ट, मैं स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉय के एम्बिट से बाहर निकलूं. इफ आई एम आउटसाइड द एम्बिट ऑफ स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉय, then this 5 type of benefits is at least not going to be taxed in my hands under both regimes. Okay, all right. अच्छा, ये जो हमने ऊपर में किया था ना डोमेस्टिक सर्वेंट का एग्जांपल, वो नीचे में भी लिखा है कि अगर X hires a domestic servant and employer reimburses, then it is employee's obligation and therefore taxable for all. It is category A, taxable for all. But if employee is provided with a domestic servant as part of CTC, then it is list of C, matlab taxable only for specified employees. So then you have to check whether Y is specified employee, being director employee, or substantially interested shareholder employee, or having salary more than 50,000. Then only he will, any of the conditions if it is satisfied, any condition, any of the conditions if satisfied, the person will become specified employee. And then that in that person's hands, These 5 benefits will be taxable. Okay. ठीक है. This list is clear. Specified employees, any of these conditions if met, the person will become specified employee and then it will be taxable. Okay. Director employee मैम, वो तो ना जून में जाके डायरेक्टर बना, उससे पहले डायरेक्टर नहीं था, अब क्या करें? Even if he was director for a part of the year, he will be considered to be specified employee throughout the year. Okay. Ma'am, if bill is reimbursed, then will it be taxable for employees? Which bill? Which bill? Tell me. Substantially interested means what? Good question. Substantially interested has been defined in this law, in this section, as holding of more than 20%. तो अगर उस कंपनी के 20% से ज्यादा इक्विटी शेयर्स या वोटिंग पावर एक आदमी के पास है, beneficial owner of more than 20% shares or voting power of the company is a substantially interested employee. ठीक है. Beneficial owner of more than 10-20% of shareholding or voting power of the company is substantially interested employee. अगर सम में प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स हो तो प्लीज देखना वेदर दे कैरी वोटिंग पावर और नॉट, क्योंकि इक्विटी शेयर्स तो जनरली वोटिंग पावर होल्ड करते हैं. प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स हो तो इफ दे आर हैविंग वोटिंग पावर देन this is relevant for you. If they are not having voting power तो वो स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉय नहीं बन पाएगा. ठीक है. मैम गैस और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, अच्छा गैस इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का बिल रीइंबर्स हो जाए तो क्या होगा? हाँ, तो गैस और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का बिल रीइंबर्स हो जाएगा तो कैटेगरी ए में आप देखेंगे, लेकिन गैस और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी ही आपको दे दी जाए तो कैटेगरी सी आप देखेंगे. ठीक है. चलो ओके. मैम दिमाग हिल गया. चलो थोड़ा सा और हिलाएं जब हिल गया तो. रेंट फ्री अकोमोडेशन. देखो वी डोंट हैव टू मच टाइम लेफ्ट इन दिस क्लास, आई नो, बट लेट्स डू दिस. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट और मोस्ट ऑफ द सम्स में ना रेंट फ्री अकोमोडेशन आ ही जाता है. रेंट फ्री अकोमोडेशन कैटेगरी ए लिस्ट था, मतलब इट इज टैक्सेबल फॉर ऑल एम्प्लॉइज अंडर बोथ रेजिम्स एक्सेप्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट हाई कोर्ट जजेस को एक बार छोड़ देते हैं. ठीक है. अभी रेंट फ्री अकोमोडेशन को वैल्यू कैसे करेंगे? बिकॉज इट मीन्स कि आपको एम्प्लॉयर ने घर दे दिया है, या तो रेंट चार्ज नहीं करेगा या तो थोड़ा कम रेंट चार्ज करेगा. आपको घर ही दे दिया, अब आप घर को कैसे वैल्यू करेंगे? एम्प्लॉय के हाथ में परक्विजिट निकालने के लिए सर्कल रेट निकालने जाएंगे क्या घर का? अगर सर्कल रेट निकाल भी लिए तो वो तो प्रॉपर्टी का रेट है, बट उस प्रॉपर्टी से एम्प्लॉय को ईयरली क्या बेनिफिट हो रहा है वो कैसे निकलेगा? इसलिए एम्प्लॉय इनकम टैक्स में कुछ लिमिट्स ही बता दिए, ऐसे ही निकालना. ठीक है. और ये कोई लॉजिक से लिंक नहीं है, इसलिए आपको याद करना है. ठीक है. ये लिस्ट आपको याद करनी है. ऑलराइट. अगर गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयर बिना फर्निश हुआ अकोमोडेशन आपको दे, गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयर अनफर्निश्ड अकोमोडेशन देता है, तो कोई भी सिटी में दे, उसका वैल्यू है द लाइसेंस फी डिटरमाइंड बाय द गवर्नमेंट. ओके. Why have I written as applicable from 1st September? क्योंकि उस समय लॉ चेंज हुआ था, लेकिन आपका फाइनेंशियल ईयर क्या है? फाइनेंशियल ईयर 24-25. आपके लिए पूरा यही लिमिट है. ये आप नहीं भी याद करो तो चलता है. ठीक है. मतलब जस्ट लास्ट ईयर में 2023 में कुछ चेंज हुआ था, बट आपका फाइनेंशियल ईयर 24-25 है. आपके लिए चेंज लॉ ही रेलेवेंट है. तो पहले क्या था आपको जानना भी नहीं है, आपको सिर्फ यही पढ़ना है. ठीक है. ओके. अनफर्निश्ड रेंट फ्री अकोमोडेशन अगर गवर्नमेंट देती है तो लाइसेंस फी डिटरमिन्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट इज द टैक्सेबल वैल्यू, कोई भी सिटी में दे. पर वही अनफर्निश्ड घर अगर प्राइवेट एम्प्लॉयर देता है, मतलब नॉन गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयर जो कि वो खुद ओन करता है, सो देयर इज XYZ लिमिटेड which owns a property and it is allowing its employee to stay in that property without furnishing it. They are saying हम आपको घर दे रहे हैं, आप उसमें फर्नीचर बनाओ. ठीक है. अनफर्निश्ड घर given by private employer which is owned by the private employer. ऐसे में we need to see कि सिटी पॉपुलेशन क्या है. अगर सिटी पॉपुलेशन 15 लाख के अंदर है, अगर सिटी पॉपुलेशन 15 लाख के अंदर है तो 5% ऑफ सैलरी इज द टैक्सेबल वैल्यू. अगर सिटी पॉपुलेशन 15 से 40 लाख है तो 7.5% ऑफ सैलरी. अगर सिटी पॉपुलेशन मोर देन 40 लाख है, जो कि जनरली होती है, मतलब सपोज दे गिव यू एकदम सिटीज लाइक मुंबई, दिल्ली और पॉपुलेशन बताए नहीं आपको, तो आप प्लीज एस्टिमेट कर लेना कि भाई ये सारे पॉपुलर सिटीज में तो पॉपुलेशन इज मोर देन 40 lakhs ऑब्वियसली. So you assume more than 40 lakhs only for those cities. Okay. If they give you small cities, they will give you population. But if they give you big cities, tier 1 cities, they may not give you population. You understand that it is more than 40 lakhs. तो आपको नया स्लैब ही लगाना है. तो 10% ऑफ सैलरी टैक्सेबल है. ओके. तो अगर प्राइवेट एम्प्लॉयर अपना ही ओन्ड घर देता है फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट में, तो आपको देखना है सिटी पॉपुलेशन क्या है. अगर 15 लाख के अंदर है तो फिर 5%. If 15 to 40 lakhs, then 7.5%. And if more than 40 lakhs, then 10% of salary is deemed to be the taxable value of that rent-free accommodation in the hands of employee. Please explain in English. Please explain in Hindi. Ma'am, please explain in English. Okay, no problem. So, unfurnished rent-free accommodation, if it is given by a government, then whatever be the population of the city, the value will be license fee determined by the government. But if unfurnished accommodation is given by a private employer who also owns the property, then it depends on the population of the city in which the property is given. For cities having population up to 15 lakhs, 5% of salary. For 15 to 40 lakhs of population, 7.5% of salary. For more than 40 lakhs of population, 10% of salary will be deemed to be the taxable value of this perquisite. Okay. Next. Agar unfurnished accommodation is given by a private employer which is leased by him, matlab it is a leased property, it is not owned by the employer, then whatever be the city population, lease rent or 10% of salary, whichever is lower, will be the perquisite value. Because please understand, if the employer has also taken the property on lease and then giving it to you, that means he is also paying a lease rent. If it is owned by him, then he has no outflow to make. It may be just depreciation of that building. But if he has also leased it, then he is also paying a rent. So you need to factor it also. So lease rent or 10% of salary, whichever is lower, will be the taxable perquisite. If a furnished accommodation is given by any employer, government or non-government, okay, furnished accommodation, owned ho ya leased ho, agar furnished accommodation given by any employer, owned or leased, then jo bhi city population ho, whatever you have calculated above, okay, to pehle calculate the value of unfurnished accommodation in the respective circumstance, then add 10% of cost of furniture or rent of furniture as the case may be. If the furniture which is provided by employer is owned by the employer, then add 10% of cost. If the furniture provided by the employer is leased by the employer, then add rent paid by the employer. Okay, so you calculate value of unfurnished calculation accommodation as per rules given above. Then you add value of furniture, and value of furniture will be 10% of cost of furniture or actual rent of furniture, whatever is applicable for the employer. Okay. अगर hotel accommodation employer देता है तो, if it is a hotel accommodation, then hotel rent or 24% of salary, whichever is lower, is taxable. Hotel rent or 24% of salary, whichever is lower, is a taxable perquisite. Okay. Somebody is saying voice nahi hai. I think others are not saying, so probably voice hai. Okay. Now, in all cases, whatever rent you are recovering from the employee, ye to bhai in all cases of perquisites, whatever value you are getting back from the employee will be reduced from the value of taxable perquisite. Okay. तो कंसेशनल अकोमोडेशन का वैल्यू तो इधर से ही निकल गया. कंसेशनल अकोमोडेशन क्या होता है कि इंस्टेड ऑफ कंप्लीटली वेविंग ऑफ द रेंट, एम्प्लॉयर हैज सेड आई विल वेव ऑफ अ पार्ट ऑफ द रेंट. ओके, सो समथिंग यू पे टू मी which will be less than market value. So for determining value of concessional accommodation, what you need to do is you first determine value of accommodation as per rules given above. Then you reduce the amount of rent recovered from the employees. That is actually the value of concessional accommodation. There is no new rule. Okay, value of rent-free accommodation minus rent received from employee is equal to value of concessional or discounted accommodation. Okay, and if the accommodation is provided for more than 1 year, then take lower of the following. That means value as per above, or value as per above, then adjust the first year's value with the CII of the first year and CII of the subsequent year. And ये क्या होता है कॉस्ट इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स, ये हम लोग नेक्स्ट क्लास में करेंगे. ठीक है, ये पॉइंट को छोड़ दो, आप आज नहीं समझ पाएंगे. उसके बाद ट्रांसफर केसेस. कभी कभी क्या होता है ना, आपकी पोस्टिंग लगी कोलकाता में और आपको बोल दिया अब आप यू आर बीइंग ट्रांसफर टू मुंबई. ओके, नाउ एम्प्लॉयर वांट्स टू सेंड यू टू मुंबई, तो आपका जो भी खर्चा लगेगा एट द टाइम ऑफ ट्रांसफर, एंड यू विल हैव टू स्टे एट अ न्यू प्लेस फॉर सम डेज till you find an accommodation of your own, है ना. So the new place accommodation, if it is provided up to 15 days because you have been transferred, so for 15 days the lawmakers think कि इतना तो टाइम लगेगा ही नया घर ढूंढने में, तो 15 days का accommodation if provided by the employer who has transferred you to a different city, that is not a taxable perquisite. Okay, लेकिन अगर आपको नया प्लेस, आप पुराना वाला आपने छोड़ा नहीं, मतलब कोलकाता में भी आपको घर दिया था उन्होंने और फिर बोला कि आप जाओ मुंबई, कोलकाता में जो घर दिया था वो भी आपने छोड़ा नहीं, मुंबई में भी 15 दिन तक आप नया घर एंजॉय कर रहे हैं जब तक आप उतना घर नहीं ढूंढ लेते, तो फिर न्यू प्लेस अकोमोडेशन व्हाइल रिटेनिंग ओल्ड प्लेस वन, अगर दोनों अकोमोडेशन यू आर एंजॉयिंग एट द सेम टाइम, तब तो भाई लोअर ऑफ द परक्विजिट वैल्यू यू नीड टू पे टैक्स ऑन. अप टू 90 days you can take whichever is lower, उस पे टैक्स दे. 90 days से ज्यादा आप दो प्रॉपर्टीज अगर यूज कर रहे हैं तो फिर दोनों पे टैक्स दे. ठीक है, basically if you have been posted to a different city, then and you leave the accommodation given to you in the old city and you take up an accommodation in the new city, then for 15 days till you are finding a personal accommodation, there is no taxable purpose. But if you are holding the old accommodation in the old place of posting as well as enjoying the new accommodation in the new place of posting, then up to 90 days you find out the value of both the accommodation and pay tax on lower of the two. But after 90 days if you continue to enjoy both the properties, भाई आप तो एक बार में एक ही जगह रहेंगे ना, then it may have happened कि आपकी फैमिली एक जगह और आप एक जगह और आप एक बार में दो प्रॉपर्टीज एंजॉय कर रहे हैं उस तरह से. If two properties are being enjoyed together even after 90 days of posting, तब फिर तो भाई दोनों के ऊपर टैक्स देना होगा. You find out the value of each of them as the rules given here and add them and pay tax on that. Okay. Now we are at the top of the hour. अब हम और क्लास को कंटिन्यू नहीं करेंगे आज के लिए. Okay. With this, I leave you to the rent-free accommodation. थोड़ा सा शांति से होमवर्क के टाइम पे इस लिस्ट को वापस देखना and try to remember it. Okay.
Thank you, Shreya, for the wonderful session.
Thank you.
Students, I hope you enjoyed this session. In this session, this is a very important session relating to the perquisites. All the perquisite, firstly, ma'am has explained regarding the taxability in whose assessee, whose employee, which kind of employee it will be taxable. Some perquisites are taxable in the hands of all employees, some are exempt, and some are taxable only in the hands of specified employee. So firstly, it's very important to give a criteria कि whether the perquisite is taxable or not. If it is not taxable, then it's okay. If it's taxable, in whose hand, which kind of employee it will be taxable. It's not कि in every case each perquisite is taxable. But this is the first part. Then the most crucial part come arise, that is about the perquisition, that valuation rules, ki how you compute the valuation of each and every perquisite. So ma'am will explain the each and every valuation rules in detail, like she has explained rent-free accommodation. I know ki in the rent-free accommodation, it's very, you have to understand, remember the limits, the population and all these things. When ma'am will take the illustration and examples in the next class, then you will be in the better position to apply this provision in an application oriented manner rather than just learning. So in the next class, I have some MCQ also for this rent-free accommodation, but I would save it for the next class, because before that it will be better if you solve 1 or 2 questions and just familiar with the application of this provision, so that you can answer the MCQ in a better manner. So till that, student, if you have any doubt in that deduction or deduction ma'am has taught, then other than that, allowances, the terminal benefits, whatever ma'am has taught till so far, if you have any doubt, student, you can ask. Yes, Soumya, problem solving session will be there, because when 2 or 3, because if you see na Soumya, in each and every perquisite or every provision, ma'am is taking too many questions, too many elaborate questions. In rent-free accommodation also, ma'am has many 2 or 3 questions. For your homework also, ma'am has given the question. So in between also, ma'am is taking very the question, ma'am is taking the questions so that it could be understood to you in a better manner ki how to implement the provision, how to understand the provision. Definitely, if the time permits, there will be a problem solving session. Uh, very good, Priyanka. It's very good if your all the queries are resolved in the session and you don't have any query. So I hope in the next class, when I am taking the MCQs, all you just give the correct answer, because you are telling everybody that you are got all the provision correctly. So just revise the session, just do participate with the ma'am, just interact with her, and all whatever doubts is arising in your mind, just clear your concept in the class itself, and just leave your your practice question or your for the concept clarity, just to understand. And if you have any doubt, you can ask to the ma'am in the next session also. Kevin, salary for this purpose has to be considered. How that ma'am will explain ki what is the meaning of salary for that. Like in this rent-free accommodation, if you see 5% of salary, 7.5% of salary, or 10%, what is salary? What is all included in the meaning of salary? That ma'am will explain in the next class. When she will be taking the practical problems, then she will explain to you the meaning of salary. So, okay, student, with this, I think we can just conclude this session.
In fact, students, just on the salary meaning, you remember in the beginning of the class, I had promised you a cheat sheet. It is there in this deck only when you download it from the portal. At the end, you will see there is a cheat sheet on meaning of salary. So where the salary for RFA is also defined. Okay, so try to revise what you have already done, and also try to learn the new thing about RFA. We will apply it in the next class when we will do question answers. Okay.
Okay, students. Thank you, Shreya.
Please attempt the homework as much as you can. Please try to do them. For concepts which you have not done so far, you can leave them. But the ones that you have already done, please try to attempt the homework. It is very important. Please revise these concepts. You must have seen that in class 2 and 3, I have revised a lot of class 1 and then class 2 also, which is why we are running a little late. But it is important that if you remember those things. So now I will request you that class 1 plus 2 plus 3, you will revise yourself and come to class 4. Then we can start from class 4 and I will not have to revise those 3 classes again. Okay. So let me make that request to you, and I hope you will follow that. You will, accept my request. Thank you. Thank you.